Hello, everybody. We're just about to start our brand new episode of Dave's Gone By with me, Dave Lefkowitz, here in the Daverhood. I was going to say the radio Daverhood, but it hasn't been real radio for several months now. It's more like TV-da-hood, Facebook-a-hood, computy-hood, or, as you may call me, the marvelous Mr. Mazel. I don't even know what that means. Welcome, Bert, and welcome to all the folks who are tuning in to this episode of the Dave's Gone By Facebook podcast. Please do that. Program of the stream. We've got a very special one with a really special Broadway guest, plus all the usual craziness that we do here every Saturday from 9 until noon Eastern Time in the Daverhood. I'm Dave Lefkowitz. Thanks for joining us, and let's get to, of course, the music that we love, the music that starts the show.
There goes the Daverhood! And there was much rejoicing.
Didn't your meds kick in yet?
Yeah, David Lefkowitz here. He's a Long Island arts guy. He's got his own radio show.
I want you all to really enjoy a wonderful program done by a fine artist.
A glorious thing of unparalleled beauty.
Dave's Gone By. Dave is one of my very favorite broadcasters, so keep on listening to Mr. Dave.
Well, there goes the Daverhood. Good morning, everybody, and welcome on this Saturday, July 20th, 2019, to a brand new, exciting, and spanking edition. The Mazel edition. I don't know why we called it that, but we found this item in a local store, and we just had to have it. It is a new edition of Dave's Gone By, our 705th episode of this Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the stream. With me, Dave Lefkowitz. As I said, we're here every Saturday from 9 until noon-ish, and we mix humor and talk and music and all that kind of cool stuff to do something that not a lot of other shows do that I can think of. I mean, there was just this big article in the New York Times this week about podcasts. And being the New York Times, of course, it's terribly depressing and and negative in its way, and saying, well, you know, there's 750,000 podcasts out there. Most of them audio. Didn't really deal that much with audio versus video. But it said there's 750,000. How do you gain traction? How do you become an influencer? Which, I mean, I don't influence anybody to do anything. If I did, it'd be like Soupy Sales telling the little children, okay, so kids, go into your mommy and daddy's pants, take out the wallet, and see that little green paper, send it to this address, care of Soupy Sales. I mean, if I could do that and be that kind of influencer, I like to think that when I talk about Broadway shows on here, and I recommend something before it's closing, that some people listening, if they're in New York, they're like, oh, I should go see that. And that's a really cool thing, right? And that's of value, I believe, to the producers and the press agents of these shows. And I like to think that I influence people, especially when I was more on terrestrial or college radio and playing a lot of music, and I would play stuff that people had never heard before or not pay attention to. And they go, ooh, that's a cool song. I should get that record. You know, I should get that CD.
Do you think this phone's turned on? The boiler's not working.
Oh.
It's on. Well, I'm in use.
Maybe, hold on one moment, please. Maybe popping it back in the socket.
No, it's fine.
Oh, okay, cool.
You didn't turn it off.
And that was, by the way, my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, whose voice you heard, because we're getting our equipment ready, our very, very high-tech recording and our high-tech connection device for our interview coming up later in the program. But yeah, man, this idea of what are you doing special that 750,000 other podcasters aren't? Most of them getting 5 or 10 people listening a week. And I got to say, that's what's so wonderful here. That's why I make such a big deal of welcoming Bert and Cynthia. Cynthia's going to take our quiz, I'm sure. And, of course, Tony. And thank you, Cynthia, for, well, Tony gave us the thumbs. Cynthia said she did that. I'm not sure to what she is referring. And all the other folks that I can't see or who are watching on the watch parties that do the show, it's really important to me because I'm not in the ozone. Even when I was on commercial Long Island radio of a sorts, even when I was on college, university radio for all those years, it really was, I don't get a good idea. I could have been talking to 2 people live, or I could have been talking to 2,000, 20,000 people. I never really knew. Somebody's in the car, Arbitron doesn't really tell you whether that person's listening. And we didn't have, the station I worked at did not have Arbitron ratings or any of that stuff. They didn't want to spring for it. So here, I can see, oh my gosh, there's millions of people on Facebook. They could be doing all sorts of other things, but I know that 100 or so folks are listening right here and now to the program while it's going on. I'm not talking to 1 or 2 people, or a dozen, or 2 dozen, or just family. There's people who choose to tune in week after week to see what we do here on Dave's Gone By. That doesn't make me an influencer. If it was 100,000 people, we'd be talking something else. But it's a step. It's going in the right direction. And knowing that I have folks to talk to is a really, really wonderful thing. Not to mention all the folks who end up watching the video later on in the week, or people who go to my website. I don't even count the numbers on there of how many folks on a Wednesday will say, oh, boy, I've got to do some boring thing for 3 hours at work. Let me go listen to this thing I couldn't listen to on Saturday, and there it is at davesgoneby.com. So you add all that up, and we also throw the show on YouTube for people who want to watch it there. You start to get a couple of 100 folks listening week after week. So does that put me still in the, I don't know, 30th percentile of podcasters out there? Maybe I won't be surprised if I'm in the 15th to 18th percentile. I mean, or we're going to get the lowest, like the bottom 30% or 20%, as opposed to the bottom 4%. It's a step. And by the way, thank you for stepping up to the show, Jack, and again, Cynthia, and Joyce, of course. See, we get 2 for 1 with Cynthia watching because her husband, Jeffrey. Hello, Jeffrey. That's the first time she's mentioned him. Oh my God, Cynthia is saying that she actually did do the Soupy sales thing. When Soupy did that great stunt for which he paid something of a heavy price of asking children to go send money to him. And then he had to send it all back and apologize. Well, Cynthia says she actually listened and did it. I got to do that. I wouldn't care, if I could have only 20 people listening, but they all sent me money every week. With all due respect, I love all of you, but you can all go away and just leave the people who send money. Just one, because it's on my mind now because I'm trying to raise money again to do a show in New York in a couple of months, and approaching people who have money and getting them to try and give it to your project as opposed to the 50 other people who want their money to do their projects. Not so simple. But anywho, I'll certainly take any suggestions on that. But welcome to Cynthia again, and Steve, and Joe. Oh my gosh, Joe, the press agent that I've known for so many years, and my beloved Auntie Essie. Yes, I do know a lot of the folks who are watching personally. I would kind of like to expand that base a bit to more folks I know impersonally, and even some folks I know biblically. I blew that joke. But let me tell you what's going to be on this episode of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio Podcastio Programmio of the stream. We're calling it not HUFFPOW, but HUFFPOW. See, that's a visual effect right there. We can't get that on radio. HUFFPOW, because just have to angle it properly. Our guest in the Daverhood is a Broadway actress. Let me get her actual credits. She's also done TV. Boy, that doesn't that excite me. Here we go. I want to do it right here. I want to let you know that she is a Tony Award-winning Broadway actress for an iconic role. It was kind of iconic in the movies first, when Lee Meredith did it, but in 2001, Mel Brooks and Thomas Meehan decided to create a Broadway musical out of his most popular cult film. I made the huge hit with Blazing Saddles, a big, of course, huge hit with the wonderful Young Frankenstein, but for Jewish men of a certain age, there is no other movie quite like The Producers. And Mel Brooks had a crazy idea to create a musical version of The Producers. And this is, by the way, well, they were already making movies into musicals, but it wasn't like every musical on Broadway was based on a movie. And his already had a couple of songs in it, and he did it right. It's not the greatest musical ever, but it was very funny, great fun, really craftsman-like, and well done. And of course, it was the biggest hit of the season. It was a cause célèbre when The Producers opened on Broadway, of course, with Matthew Broderick and Nathan Lane. But when you think of the story of The Producers and the movie, the other person that you think of, besides Bialystock and Bloom, is, of course, their secretary, Ula, played on film by Lee Meredith as a va-va-va-voo-mala. Well, who did they get? Who did they get to play Ula, the dynamic, dazzling bombshell that is in the office just to look like someone who's in the office and eminently stoopable? They went to really the first person that had to be on their minds, an actress named Cady Huffman. Now, she had done another big Broadway show. She was in the musical Will Rogers Follies, if you remember, which was quite a big hit of that year, too. And that was her big entree into Broadway. I remember Will Rogers Follies pretty darn well. Some friends of ours were huge fans of the show, and they went to see it about 5-6 times, and I saw it once or twice. And it was a very fun show, beautifully done, directed, choreographed by Tommy Tune. So it had the look and feel of something, not just a tired businessman's musical, but done up to the absolute nines. And Keith Carradine comes out to play Will Rogers in the Will Rogers Follies, and you're watching this, oh, this is going to be fun, and then Willamania, and then they bring out Will's favorite. She didn't even give the girl a name. They just called her Will's favorite. And out steps this woman, blonde, seemed about 9 foot tall when she came out onto the stage to join Keith Carradine. 9 feet tall and every single inch gorgeous. Like blonde. She's got the suit jacket cut to here with nothing underneath, and we're all just like, ah. And that was the first Broadway appearance of Cady Huffman, I believe. Let me see, was she Tony nominated for that as well? She certainly made a big splash in the Will Rogers Follies. Went on to do The Producers. She was also in Steel Pier. She was in Chicago. She played Mama Morton. Later on in Chicago, she didn't originate the role in the revival. She was in a very good play called The Nance, again with Nathan Lane. She was an Outer Critics Circle Award nominee for that show. And she's been in a couple of movies. She was in Hero and the Company of Men. She was on One Life to Live for a while, the TV soap opera. So she's done all sorts of things. And now Cady Huffman is doing and developing a cabaret show where she plays Peggy Lee. You know, Fever, Never. She plays that singer, that songstress, who had a bunch of hits, had a very particular style, and also had kind of a complicated life. So she's doing that, and she will be doing that. And July 24th, so this week, and July 31st again, at the Green Room 42 in Manhattan. She already did it earlier this month there, and it was reached such popular acclaim that she's bringing it back this week and next. It's called Miss Peggy Lee, in her own words and music. Cady Huffman stars in it, created, developed it. She's singing Peggy Lee's songs. So she's going to be talking about that on this show today. She'll be calling in at about 10 o'clock-ish. So you're going to want to stay here and be here and invite your friends for that. She won't be talking to me, alas. She'll be talking to the one, the only, the Jewish Rabbi Sol Solomon, because who better to talk to a Shiksagadis than Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. So that's going to be a tremendous amount of fun, I'm sure. Cady Huffman in the Daverhood with Rabbi Sol. In the Daverhood with all the folks who are tuning in, including Jolinda and Jacqueline. And, by the way, Cynthia says saw the producers with its original cast, which also included Gary Beach and, forgive me for forgetting his name, but he ended up also starring in Young Frankenstein on Broadway. Help me out, people. But yeah, the original cast was quite tremendous in the producers. And anyway, I'm producing this program, Dave's Gone By. It's our 705th program. You can find all the older ones on davesgoneby.com. And what you'll find there is archives of the show, archives of all the interviews we've done, and archives of all the other cool, crazy, weird segments that we do. For example, the ones that we'll be doing today on this program include invariably Greeley Crimes and Old Times. This is based on articles that are in the newspaper where Joyce and I have been living for the past few years in Greeley, Colorado. So first of all, there's weird phone calls that come into the police department all week long, all day long. The newspaper collects the strangest ones, puts them in a column called Cop Log. I know, Cop Log. And then they publish it once a week. And the other thing is, there's a fellow there, our friend Mike Peters, who collects all the nostalgic sounding, goofy, cool, creepy, odd stories that were in the newspapers there 100 years ago, back in 1919. And he collates the best of those and puts them in a column called 100 Years Ago. Well, we conflate those two things, Cop Log and 100 Years Ago, into a weekly item that we do called Greeley Crimes and Old Times, and that's a whole lot of fun. Also, a whole bunch of fun is our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. Every week, I do a short poem about some town or city or municipality in Colorado. And it just started as a goof and ended up writing about 70 of them, and we're working through them week after week. So on today's show, No Llores, mi querida, we're going to Durango. Durango, Colorado will be our Colorado Limerick site for today. And also in the Daverhood, yes, we're going back to story time for all you science-minded folks, and also you weirdly dirty-minded folks. It's When Fish Fart. Yeah, we started reading this last week, and it's really great information. It's basically playing into the idea that kids have gross senses of humor and an appeal, or what appeals to them are things that are sick and gross and ooky. So this book tells us incredible information about why fish fart, and we were talking about about fugu fish last time. It's not just about fish; it's all about weird stuff. So coming up today, let me give you a taster, as it were. What is the world's? Did I do that last time? No, I didn't. So, what is the world's tastiest insect? I don't know. And don't anybody say the one-eyed wonder worm. That would be not nice. Coming up in the book, what was a dredger man? I have no idea. And of course, my favorite, what underwear blocks the smell of farts? What underwear blocks the smell of farts? Joyce has some breaking information. Someone named Kurt. Oh, this is way cool. A fellow named Kurt. We're getting to the letters, just to announce all the folks, because I don't necessarily see all the people who are tuning in to watch parties. I just get the ones who are directly here. But welcome to Kathleen, and of course Bruce, the satirist Bruce, who's been on the program, and Donna, and Adam, and Ron, and someone named Manage. No, just printing a little instruction there. And Kurt, who says, quote, I was fortunate to see Cady Huffman as Mrs. Rogers standby to Dee Hoagie in the touring production of the Will Rogers Follies. So, although on Broadway, Cady Huffman played Will Rogers' favorite, and the tour, when Will Rogers Follies went on tour, she understudied Dee Hoagie, who was the lead actress. She was Will's real wife / I think they were married, real wife in the program, in the show. So Kurt says that Cady was fantastic. I can't imagine the Broadway production in any better. Cady, Keith, Dick Latessa, of course, the late Dick Latessa, all at the top of their game. And of course, Betty Comden and Adolph Green's best score. There may be some bells are ringing fans who disagree with that. I'm not sure. I have to listen to both again. But thank you, Kurt, for writing in. And also to Michael and Dave and Roderick and Rod And who else? And I think I got them so far. Yeah, and then there's bunches of others that we're not even seeing. And suddenly, when the show's over, I'll say, oh, 150 people tuned in. Yeah. And welcome to all of you who are. And Jacqueline and Jolinda. Yes, we see Jolinda every week. Now, Art Paul, are you there? Give me a good shout out if you are. And who else? We haven't had that guy from England who used to tune in. And then there's, and forgive me for not remembering names. I've always been really terrible at this. I'm in the moment, so suddenly I've got to recall, well, she tunes in every week, and then I see her name, and I'm like, yeah, welcome. But when I actually have to think about it and pull up the name out of my brain, I'm like, yeah, which is basic, pure sociopathy, I think. And welcome to JL, because he tunes in a lot of weeks as well. So yeah, we're talking about all the stuff we're doing. We're doing story time again about why fish fart. We're doing a Greeley Crimes at All Times, our Colorado Limerick. We're going to go inside Broadway for news of the Rialto, because I do love Broadway, and there's some Broadway news. You know, it's been a real shakeout time for Broadway shows. You know, for a long time, a lot of theaters have just been full, with shows sitting in them and doing well, so why should they leave? But this has been the summer of shows dropping, not just from this past season, but shows that have been sitting in theaters for 4, 5, 6 years, finally saying, hey, we're calling it quits in a couple of months. There's a couple that were mentioned just this weekend. I'll let you know what they are, plus some shows that are going to be bound for Broadway in the months ahead. That'll be our Inside Broadway segment on Dave's Gone By today. And our Today Yesterday quiz. We've been doing these the past few weeks. I've been having a lot of fun. And today, of course, is July 20th, 2019. There have been a lot of other July 20ths in the past. What has happened on this day in history? I've got a quiz for you. 10 questions with clues, and your job, should you choose to accept it, is to figure out, hey, what happened on this date all those years ago? So yeah, lots of fun stuff to do on Dave's Gone By. Did I leave anything out? Let me check. Well, if I did, you'll just have to tune in and watch and figure it out. So let me talk about some stuff. Let me yak a bit, because I've gotten used to doing this over the past few, not that I haven't been talking since the show started in 2002, but this is kind of the fun part of where I just get to go off on things. Well, if you know Joyce and me from either this show or you know us personally, you know that I'm an omnivore. I eat anything and everything. I'll try just about everything once. So we talked about the tastiest insect. At some point, I will try a grasshopper. I will try an ant, even a chocolate-covered bee, even though I basically bee phobia, whatever they call that. What's that? Apiophobia. Bees and hornets and wasps terrify me. So it's almost like revenge for the psychological effect those things have on me, to be able to cover one with chocolate and crunch it down. But I'll eat that. I'll eat pig, sorry, Mom and Dad, and shrimp, sorry, Mom and Dad, and veal, and chicken, and beef, and pork, and yes, and sorry, wife. My wife, Joyce, is a vegetarian. She wasn't always. She gave up meat just for health purposes well over a decade ago, probably about 15 years ago now. She was still having chicken. Chicken was fine. But then, this is absolutely true, and I don't know if I've ever mentioned this story on the air. And I wish she were up here to tell it herself. But honestly, this is what happened. She was fine. She had given up red meat, even though she liked occasionally sausage or steak. Gave it up. But chicken, loved chicken, like chicken soup. And one day, we're walking along the street when we're still living on Long Island, and she sees this baby bird that had fallen out of the nest. And rather than walk away and let it be and let it get eaten by a cat, my wife, being what she is, says, oh, baby bird, we're going to save it. So, of course, we have to take it very carefully, bring it to the nearest veterinarian to say, oh, we did, baby bird, can we do that? And he's like, oh, it's fine. It fell. It's waiting for its mama. Why don't you go bring it back exactly where it was and try not to touch it too much so you don't get your imprint and smell on it. But that moment of seeing a bird as not just this flying flappy thing that tastes good when you fry it up in breading, right, or grill it, but as this creature, this sad little sentient creature that starts as a little chick, that was the button. That flipped the other switch. She will eat eggs. She's not a vegan, and she'll have milk and cheese. She's not, if she can, it would be a lacto-ovo thing rather than, it's not wrong to milk a cow. But that's her thing. She is vegetarian. And we always, goof on each other and sometimes spat a little bit because, she'll feel like I'm making fun of what she eats or my family does and that she eats rabbit food. And, I like a salad. I do, but not as a main course. I like a good steak. I like a little side dish because it's healthy. And then, okay, if you want to open with a salad, little bit of lettuce, tomato or 2 or 3, a very chewable, easy to eat carrot, and what else? What else goes in? Red pepper. Red pepper's good, right? So I'll have that, but she will have a giant bowl, and that will be enough for her, right? She'll put a little bit of a protein in there or some cheese on it. Great, fine, fantastic. But I never understood. She loves it. She loves salad, and I could never absolutely. I would sooner give up salad than love salad. And I was, what is so wonderful about salad? Now, I mean, because the whole point for me is, I can put dressing on this. I can put Italian vinaigrette or a mustard-based dressing on this. I can do a raspberry vinaigrette. So I'm doing 2 food groups there. It's not just vegetables. I'm getting my fruit of the pyramid in there because it's a raspberry dressing. Win-win for Dave, right? But for her, this is a beautiful thing. I'm like, well, yeah, okay, I get it. You like it. It's a good thing you like it because you're eating it to be healthy, right? You're eating it because it's good for you. And I never truly understood until this week, until we went to the local supermarket and started poking through the salad section there, the fruits and vegetables, produce section of the supermarket. And we're looking, what do we want to get? The spring mix of lettuce. She hates iceberg. She won't touch iceberg. She likes the normal, the leaf lettuce. And I do too. Now, I mean, I grew up on iceberg, but now I like regular, real, quote unquote, leafy lettuce and spinach and escarole, whatever the hell that is, in my salad. So we're picking, well, which one's on sale and which is the best one to get. And she grabbed this one. And now I completely understand why she's over the moon about salad. I'm just going to show it right here. Hold on. I actually have the box. We got this at, and we got it. This wasn't at the supermarket. This was actually bought at a local smaller place. I'm going to show it to you. It's just a little thing of salad here, just so I'm not giving anything away. So it's getting a little bit, we kind of need a new one. It's getting a little ooky now. Oh boy, right? Greens, leafy greens, good for you. What is so special about them? And then I saw the label. And it suddenly dawned on me why everyone would love salad. This is the kind of salad that this is. Not sure if you can, I'm assuming you can't read that. I'm holding it right up against the thing. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, this is so much better than iceberg and greenberg and feinberg. This is better than spring mix and spinach mix. Ladies and gentlemen, who wouldn't want a nice big bowl of mescaline? Of course we're going to love this salad. Of course you're going to be on a high after you eat a bowl of that. They mean, I'm presuming that they mean mesclun or mesclun, M-E-S-C-L-U-N, but the English teacher in me sees that and goes, yeah, this makes so much more sense now of why people turn vegetarian. They're delicious mescaline salad. And she does spend some extra time in the mushroom aisle after all that. And they're not the shiitakes, no, they're sort of kind of real special. And she doesn't just snip them, she starts licking them. I'm understanding the salad fixation now much more. So that's that's one of the things I wanted to mention. I'm just happy to talk about that. What else do I want to talk about? I talked about this 2 weeks ago, and there has been resolution. This has been a week of actual happy things a lot of the time. It's kind of interesting. I've been sort of depressive, and things have been really negative the past couple of weeks. Joyce and I were actually fighting last week, so she was barely on the show. Now she's she's also on the show helping get people to watch the program. But we've resolved that, and things are better, and da-da-da. Well, some good things happened this week, and one was completely unexpected. And I talked about this about 2 or 3 weeks ago on the show, that, again, Joyce and I are living far away from where our home is in Colorado. We're back staying with my parents, and you wonder why we're back, on Long Island, in my old room where I grew up. This is my closet. Oh, I can't really move this or I'll hurt the mazel sign. But, okay. It's been overall really, really good. But we're far away. And I'm still having to deal with bills that come to us from Colorado, right? Because I've still got to pay the mortgage. We have a townhouse, so we still have to pay the HOA on that, which has been astronomical this year. We have to pay, light bill. They don't just shut everything off and let the thing fall into a tumble-down shack. You got to pay for a base light and base heat, electricity, and gas, and even freaking horrible, miserable, I hate you Comcast Xfinity Cablevision. In terms of, for a few months they allowed us to pay a really minimal rate just to keep things on baseline. So, nobody's there, we're not watching TV, we don't do TV. Nobody's there, we're not using the internet, we're not using the telephone. Can they shut everything off and not bill us for 6 months? No. No, they're going to bill us a certain amount, and plus we have their equipment and so forth. But then they do this for only a short amount of time. They give you a 6-month window to pay this. It's for snowbirds, essentially. It's for people who spend the winter elsewhere, and they do this probably year after year. So Xfinity gives them a break in the sense of, hey, just pay this little baseline because we want to keep you as a customer, and then when you come back, we'll switch everything back on, and we'll bill you $200 and something a month for cable, phone, internet. And so what we used to bill you $99 a month for, we'll go back to your normal rate. Fine. And so we have our 6-month chip, as it were, and now we're staying in New York a little while longer. And so I'm calling Comcast, Xfinity, and telling them, hey, let's extend this cheap rate. And I go, no, we can't do that. Can't do it. Well, what can you do? And then what they can do is cut off some of our service, but make us the rent and make us pay not quite, but almost in the realm of what we were paying when we were physically living there. And it's like, oh, thank you. Thank you so much, cable TV. Right, and we can't really turn everything off and stop everything, because when we do go back, we're going to need internet immediately. And also we have equipment, and they have to get in and pull and turn, and then if we decide to go to DirecTV, it's a simus, as this language would say. So that was a bad pain in the ass stuff from our TV. But I was also talking about 2 weeks ago our energy bill, our light bill. And got a bill from them for, and I'll say the numbers, it was about $70, which is ridiculous because nobody is living there. And by the way, if there are burglars watching and listening, we live in a townhome, and half of it is with our next door neighbor. So she's there, and her daughter's there, and her boyfriend's there all the time. So the house is far from abandoned. Don't try and take anything. And it's a community that watches over each other, and we got an alarm. So we, however, my wife and I, are away and have been away for a bit. We're not using any, we unplugged every possible thing that we could unplug. Nobody, the microwave, out. Nobody's microwaving anything. The fridge is still plugged in, fine. TVs, out of the wall. Clocks and clock rate, nobody's shaving. Nobody's running a dishwasher. Nobody's running a dryer, washer combo. Nobody's using computers plugged into anything. No, it is a dead zone in terms of electricity usage. So how on earth do I get a bill that suddenly, month to month, I should say, because our bill, again, we were doing a baseline. We're getting a bill of about $25, $30 a month while we've been gone. And suddenly, for no reason, we jumped to $70. And immediately I call our next door neighbor, and I was like, are you throwing wild parties in our house while we're away? And she's like, only a couple, and it's sexier if we do it in the dark. So no, that wasn't the answer. That wasn't the reason our bill went up. And immediately I call the company. I call Xfinity. Xcel Energy. And I talk to a helpful customer service rep, and I tell them, could you explain to me how we've been away and away and away, leaving an empty house for months at a time? Nothing has changed. And yet somehow in May, we had this bill, and in June, we had this bill. How does this happen? Nobody's using any energy there. And I'm thinking maybe it's where we have our thermostat set in terms of heating and cooling the house with central air while we're gone, so it doesn't turn into an oven or an icebox. Maybe, but could it be because we have our neighbor looking at that and keeping it at a reasonable temp? What could it be? And it shouldn't just, and the main thing, and this is very important, and I told this to the woman, I got my old bills out, and I checked, and I said, the bill that we got for this past month is actually higher, significantly higher than the bill that we got for the same time period a year ago when Joyce and I were home and we were using all the lights, working on computers, watching TV, running the dishwasher, running the washer dryer, using the house like people use a house. How in the name, we have an electric stove, how on earth do we suddenly get a higher bill now in an empty home than we did when we were living and utilizing the home? And the woman was like, oh, it must be kind of a problem. I'm like, yeah, it is. Because I'm paying bills in a place I'm not living at, and also having to buy food and live here. And she was like, well, I said, can you send somebody to look at this to figure out what's wrong? And she said, well, they come, they don't go in the house, they read the meter, and whatever's on the meter, that's what I know. I'm like, okay, well, obviously there's something iffy with the meter, or there's a problem. They said, well, if there is, there's a test you got to do, and you got to, I don't know why I'm making her sound like Tommy Chong, but if there is, there's a test you got to do, and you go in and I think it involves the circuit breakers, and you turn one and you see if one is kind of overrunning energy, if there's somehow an energy leak in the home. And you can only figure that out by testing, and there's a little meter under each thing. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell she's talking about. So I say, okay, if we can impose upon our wonderful neighbor to do this, can she come in? Can we make an arrangement when the woman from Xcel said, no, you have to do that. We're not going to send someone in the house. You have to do this test. And I'm like, we don't even know yet. You're trying to describe something. I'm 2,000 miles away. I don't even know where our circuit box is. And you're telling me that it's our responsibility to figure out how your bill is screwed up. And she essentially said, yeah. And that there's really nothing then that we can do until we literally get back into Colorado, look at the problem, try and figure out what the hell, keep them on the phone with us maybe while we're trying to see, oh, it's these switches, and we note down this number, and now we wait how long, and what the hell do we do? Thank you so much for wasting a day of my life. So I get off the phone, as usual, in a rage, because I told you about my Bank of America story last week. So, boom. And then we get another bill. Same thing. Now we've gone from 30 to a baseline of 70. Again, high bill. And this goes on for about 2-3 months. In the mail, apropos of nothing, we get our latest bill this week from Xcel Energy. And no phone calls, no apologies, no nothing. It was just like, there was a discrepancy. There was some kind of mistake made in billing. And suddenly all these things, all these stuff that we had paid, and then our balance is now in parentheses. Now, you don't want to see parentheses in a bank statement balance, but you do want to see parentheses in a bill, because that means, oh, you've been overcharged. And they say, we've overcharged you. And here's your money back, and now you have $100 and something credit. I mean, yay, right? Yay, big win. Do they pay us interest for the months that they've kept our money without our money, without fixing anything, without any apology? No. They've been holding our money, putting it in the bank at maybe, 1.5% interest for them, or investing it, and then figuring, oh, we made a boo-boo. And I wonder how many thousands of customers they've done this for when they've held on to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars, had it, used it, and then like, oh, oops, let's give you your principal back. Well, are you saying loud enough? So, or is this from? Okay. Oh yeah. Well. Oh yeah. Joyce is reminding me, by the way, for those of you who are listening to my rant, my happy rant about the energy and the billing that we've been having. For those of you who are waiting through this to get to Cady Huffman, she is scheduled to be on at 10 o'clock. She'll be calling here at 10 o'clock in the morning, Eastern time, by the way. So you're going to want to stay tuned with us for another 15 minutes while we talk, and while I've forgotten to do some of the recording devices here on the show. On the show, this is better. And this one too.
You want some salsa?
I'm good. Let me just open this up. So literally, as I was saying that, somebody logged off, and is probably going to be waiting until 10 o'clock to log back on. Thanks so much. That makes me feel so good. But yeah, Cady Huffman will be here. 10 o'clock in the morning in the Daverhood. With me, Dave Lefkowitz, by the way. Dave, who is now $100-something richer, thanks to getting his own money back from a utility. Thank you, I keep saying Xfinity. I'm sorry. This one's Xcel. But happy resolution for once in terms of something in our lives. Let me also give a welcome. Oh my gosh, so many people. Again, Kathleen and Bruce and Donna, Adam, Ron, Kurt, Michael, Dave, Roderick, and Rod, 2 different people. Welcome to Donna and Adam and Ron and Kurt and Michael and Dave and JL, Edward, Fran, Ellen, Harlan. Oh my God, Harlan, welcome. And Jean-Marie, Steve and Mark and Ron and William and Josh and Dog. We need to get him an iPad so he can watch the show himself. But this is our dog, Oofty Gooft. He's making his cameo appearance that people love to see. There we go. Let's get it. There we go. Let me hold him properly then. Come on, hello, say hello, Oofty. Because desperate for ratings, I want to stand out over those 750,000 other podcasters. What better way to do that than with a 17-year-old dog? And this is our beloved dog, Oofty Gooft. And if they're wondering about the tongue, we actually caught him mid-cunnilingus. So
no, he doesn't have teeth. He has no teeth.
Yeah. We pulled his teeth a long time ago for health reasons. So it's got no place for the tongue to go except that. So that's what he is. There's our beautiful dog, Oofty. We will not be interviewing Oofty, but Rabbi Sol Solomon will be interviewing Cady Huffman on the show. Cady of the producers and the Nance and the Will Rogers Follies. And also, don't forget that because she was in the she was in the producers as Ula, she became part of the arc of a full season of Curb Your Enthusiasm with Larry David. The one where Larry David is cast as Max Bialystock in the producers on Broadway, and he's so terrible he actually winds up being good in it. And then there's actually a little bit of a love story there. He gets to kiss Cady Huffman, so yay for Larry David. But we'll talk about all that. Rabbi Sol will be talking with her in just a little bit. And welcome, by the way, to also Joan and Matt and Stephen and Ron and Bill and Mark, and a lot of these are doubles. There's Scott and Tommy, and not Carlos, but Carlos, which is, should have the axles tightened. Joan and John and Ken and Kathleen and Billy and Mark. Wow. So good to see all of you. And I'm so glad you're all seeing me here. And also, I mentioned Laura and Nancy and Martha and Gina and Tom and JL. Good Lord. Everybody tuning in to see Cady Huffman.
She's big.
She's big in Not just Japan. She's big on Broadway.
in your wooga wooga mind.
Yeah.
Call her a glamazon.
She really is. Cady Huffman is a glamazon. That was what she was meant to be. When you saw her in Will Rogers, when you saw her on Broadway, she didn't get the role in the film, which was, well, they needed, I guess, a film name. So they kept Nathan Lane and they kept Matthew Broderick, but in the role of Ula, they cast Uma Thurman, who did a perfectly fine job. And yes, she looks like Uma Thurman, but that was Cady's part. That was hers to have.
Wow.
And so we'll probably be asking her about that as well. And then they recast also like the Gary Beach and the other guy role. I mean, then they got other comedy film actors for the movie. That's what the movies do.
Wow.
And the film was actually a flop. So I'm sure they, Cady and the other people were like, yeah, if you really cast all the Broadway people in it, maybe it would have been a bigger hit. Maybe.
So.
Or what they really should have, it was a little too early.
Why didn't they just film the Broadway show?
Exactly, or done it live, like they're doing all these live musicals
Pan,
now. Yeah, but anywho, they should really do that still. Like have a major TV event with Nathan and Matthew and Cady going one last time on live TV. That would, because that started to fall out. All these it became a glut. And people stopped wanting to see these live musicals.
So many glitches, and then they have
yeah, well, the wrench was a problematic one because one guy broke his arm or his foot, and the Peter Pan thing was like, not so good. I mean, that was Christopher Walken's worst moment. What was it? Christopher Walken?
The pirate.
Yeah, his first moment since killing Natalie Wood. But no, I can't. I know. But anyway, who else? Oh, a couple of other people, and Leith just tuned in, so welcome to you. Want to remind you that we're also doing Inside Broadway and our Colorado Limerick and Storytime and our...
Oh, and also Chris said there's a good book about a dog farting, he mentioned.
So there's probably, I don't know if it's a sequel.
It's something with a dog that farts.
To this book, but there's also a book about a dog farting. And speaking of farting, I'm glad you're here. Can we take a seat so we can talk a little bit?
Just remember that you have
10 o'clock,
but you don't show off your seat too.
Yeah, I will when because we're about still.
I will only speak to you in rhymes. Pick a card.
Oh yeah, we got this.
You pick a card, and I will only speak to you.
Any card?
Yes.
Okay. She got. Well, do you want to show the box or do this later? Yeah. This is kind of a cool thing that Joyce found in a 99-cent shop, which wasn't really 99 cents, but here it is.
It was in Target.
Special rhyming cards.
Okay.
Phonics and reading flashcards, all sorts of fun. Especially since we're doing poetry later. Here we go. Picking this card.
Okay.
Now, what do we have to do? Can I show it to the people?
Everything I say has to use those words, yes.
So the word is or.
No, the root is or.
The root is or. And then all the rhyming words, kind of got to use them in this game.
Whatever you ask me, I have to use one of these words in that sentence.
All right. Well, what I wanted to talk about is a show that we've discovered on Netflix called Larva. If you haven't seen it, I don't know if you really have to. It's an animated film of very short. Each bit is about 90 seconds long, about two larvae living under a grate in a city.
Sewer grate.
A sewer grate, yeah. And so sewer grate. And they live off the stuff that's under there. Any leftover food, anything people throw away, but they're also subject to the horrors of the weather. They're subject to floods. They're subject to other creatures living down there under the store. It's sick. It's funny, tasteless.
But it's so funny. The laughter makes us roar.
What else do you think about Larva, dear?
I don't know. It's really up to you because it's your show.
Yeah. Are you sure about that?
I think it's worn out.
Well, you wore it out.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do I have to? I don't know. Let me see. Let's do these words here. I don't know. I keep thinking, do I really want to keep watching this? And I'm like, yeah, let's watch more. Like more's on there. More's on. Okay.
I hate it when it rains and it soaks the grate floor.
Yeah, in a downpour. Is pour on there? Yeah, it is.
Sometimes I think that show's rotten to the
core.
Yes.
Do you like it, or is watching it a chore?
Sometimes I wish Richard was here so we could watch it with Richard.
Sure. And yet, sometimes it's so funny that it'll make my heart sore.
Oh, I think it's good if you're the age of 4.
Actually, you don't want a 4-year-old. You really don't want a 4-year-old.
How about, David, let's
Wait,
just,
watch your
David,
lean in. Yeah.
let's just close that door.
Oh, okay.
That's
Door
better.
door doesn't really rhyme with or, but it shouldn't.
But that's what it
Yeah,
says. I
yeah.
can't help it.
It's a bit of a false rhyme, but okay,
enjoy this.
we'll let it go. Let's do one more. Let's do
Okay.
another. Let's do one more of this card thing.
I don't want you
And then I want to read the reviews of Larva, because that's the funny, and as funny as some of the bits are, and a lot of them don't work. It's just basically them trying to survive in this environment, these 2 larvae, and half the time they end up dying in various funny, horrible ways.
pick a card.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna pick this one. I'm gonna pick all the way down
This one.
here.
Oh my God! Show them the picture.
Here we go.
This could be a problem.
That's,
Now, that's problematic.
that's an image of a ship out of that other show we're watching, Big Mouth. I mean, look how
Okay, let's see.
feminine that ship is.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Okay, here you gotta hold it.
Go take a ship for yourself. All right, these are the
You're
words.
covering up the word letters. Okay.
So we're still talking about, I guess,
David,
Larva.
don't give me lip.
Okay, but the show has zip.
I'd like to go in the shower and take a dip, but we have no hot water.
Oh, yeah, but if we turn up the thermostat, the water comes and let it rip.
No, we don't, because when the guy comes to fix it, your mom's gonna give him a whip.
I don't even know where you're going with these. I think you're losing your grip.
Let me go. I gotta run around and do some skipping.
Oh, and in just a few minutes, Rabbi Sol Solomon will be here, and he occasionally does circumcisions,
Yes.
for which he gets a tip.
You know what? I don't
Okay.
think that's cool. I don't think that's hip.
Oh, well, you're just being a drip. I think I used that word.
Where's my mescaline lettuce? I need to take a sip.
Well, it is kind of drippy. It is drip. Yeah, good. Okay. Sorry, that I just had a
I
blip.
hope when the actor comes on, she doesn't start to strip.
I hope she does. See, because I certainly like to see her move her hip.
I said hip.
You did say hip? Oh, I'm sorry.
I think we're done.
Well, I wouldn't mind seeing her costume rip. Oh.
Don't you give me lip.
All right, that segment's done. Snip. Yeah. So, but what I really want to do is, because I've got 5 more minutes, and I want to talk about Larva, this TV show.
Read the reviews.
Which the beauty of this is it's cute little, they're beautifully drawn, sick humor comedy cartoons, and they look like they're for 4-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, and then you notice that some of the humor is really not at all for children of that age. So let's the fun part is going on Rotten Tomatoes or wherever I found these and reading the reviews by people who expect to bring their kids to watch this program, and then they're horrified, just horrified. One parent said, "Disgusting," with an exclamation point. Another parent had the headline, "Horrible, items up their butts in several episodes." Because they do a lot of things. All they have, they're shaped like larvae. So they have a little antenna, they've got mouths, and they've got tushies, tongue, and they use their tongue to do pretty much everything. Right, so they don't have arms or legs. Another parent says, they shove items up each other's butts. Yes. They seriously shove their mouths, antennas, and other items up their larva butts. Little kids do not need to see this. It should be for teens and adults.
Does it have a rating?
No, but the reason parents complained is that Netflix put this among items. If you call up shows for children, Netflix put this there.
That's the problem.
That's why parents are scandalized because they're bringing kids. Oh, this is cute.
No, it's not for it's for adult children.
One woman said it's beyond gross. One episode, the larva was drugged. Oh, he was drugged.
Yeah.
That's her verb for dragged. Drug open mouth
No.
through pee. True. It was very
Isn't
funny.
that just a day in the subway? I mean, come on, that's every day in the subway.
Another author, another complainer, wrote characters do weird, disgusting stuff. They lick each other, or they use their tongues as arms.
They do lick each other a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, that's all they can use.
I mean, that's all they have, right? Yeah.
Lots of farting. My son is now shaking his bottom, licking the floor. I think she has more of a problem with her child than a cartoon.
Licked it, really?
Yeah, put a helmet on and put him on a bus. She says the show is horrible. It's funny, yeah, but horrible.
It's not for. They should put a rating on it. Why
Exactly.
don't you rate it? And Netflix needs to move it. Not like Big Mouth is an excuse.
Today, my husband happened to
Wait, 3 minutes.
well, yes, to walk by as my daughter was watching this episode, and one of the characters was eating sushi. One of the characters
they
was
get
eating
sick a
sushi.
lot, yeah.
No, he poked all the different things he was going to eat, and one of them, he poked it in the anus.
I hate when cartoons.
I hate when they poke chopsticks in cartoon characters' anuses. And the
Isn't it the rectum? It wouldn't be the anus.
Would it be? I guess it would be. The chopstick broke inside of it twice as it ran off. What is this? With 3 question marks. Like, what is this?
Haven't these people ever gone out of their like bubble? Like that's like.
In this show, sexual behavior is a form of saying hello as they greet one another with tongue and lick one another's private areas.
They don't have private areas.
Yeah.
They're worms.
There is no private area. All they have is tongues. What do they expect them to do? You know, if a dog licks your face because
No,
you guys
that's
have.
how during the storm, that's when they grab onto the branches.
Yeah.
Kind of lasso.
Meanwhile, there were defenders of the program, including someone named David, not me.
No.
I love watching this show when I'm high on weed.
No, or mescaline. Wait, where is that?
or yes, if he's having the mescaline lettuce. That's I do believe we have
Blue, green.
green. This is the Dave's Gone By Facebookio Podcastio Programmio of the stream. Do we have, by any chance, Cady on the line?
What an introduction you get yourself.
Well, yeah, that's kind of. Well, we got to put the speaker to a thing. I also got to get Rabbi Sol Solomon in the room. So we're going to play a little bit of Cady Huffman's, because we're live here on the show. Oh, yeah, we're going to do this sort of instantly, but I've got a moment to kind of play a little Cady Huffman music. She is on the phone. She's going to be joining us and Rabbi Sol Solomon. So if, Cady, you can just hang there, you can actually hear you for a moment or two musically in the Daverhood, the one, the only Cady, who lets us know, as Ula, what to do.
When you got it, plant it. Step right up and start your stuff. People tell you modesty's a weird you, but in the theater modesty can hurt you. When you got it, plant it. Show your assets, let them know you're proud.
Oh, shalom, my friends. We are getting it and flaunting it, ladies and gentlemen, with an actress, a beautiful and delightful actress, ladies and gentlemen, a Tony Award winner who is with us in the Daverhood today. By the way, I am Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. I am a theater lover. I have seen this woman in the Will Rogers Follies on Broadway, where she played Keith Carradine and Dee Hodey. Also on Broadway, of course, in The Producers with Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick. She was also Our Critics Circle nominated for a play called The Nance. You've seen her in Curb Your Enthusiasm on that season where Larry David wants to be in The Producers. You have seen her on One Life to Live on TV. You've seen her in the movies Hero and The Company of Men. And by the way, and let us not forget this as well, off-Broadway, Cady Huffman was in a show called Revolution in the Elbow of Ragnar Agnarsson, Furniture Painter. I mean, how can we forget that? So, ladies and gentlemen, about to also play Peggy Lee in New York in Cabaret, the delightful, the adorable, the talented Cady Huffman. Shalom, Cady.
Hello, but
Oh, shalom to you.
how are you?
Oh, thank God. I'm good. I'm sorry that your volume is quite low here. I wonder if we can do anything about that. Probably not, but we're going to try. Well, we're trying.
I hear you just fine.
Oh, well, that's because I'm yelling. They can hear me in New Jersey, quite honestly.
I'm pretty loud. I'm surprised you can't hear me very well.
Well, yes, you are a belter. You are in that old showbiz merman-esque tradition of belting.
One of those things I can do, absolutely.
Now, so many questions to ask. Cady Huffman. But first, let's start with your recent project, the thing that you're doing first and foremost, which is a Peggy Lee cabaret bio show. When did that idea come to you?
Well, it's actually what we're doing is developing a one-woman musical more than a cabaret. So it is a musical about Peggy Lee. We got the idea. My friend Will Nunziata came to me about a year and a half ago, and he said, "Do you know Peggy Lee?" And I said, "Well, I have a poster of her hanging in my living room." He said, "Well, I want to develop a show about her." So we started about a year and a half ago trying to figure out how we wanted to bring Peggy Lee's voice and message into modern times. And, we worked really hard, lots of research. And we talked to her granddaughter, Holly, who takes care of her estate, and many people who had met her, many of her friends, and found our way in through her own lyrics and her own words. So we sing all the only songs that she wrote, either the lyrics or both the music and the lyrics.
So is Fever in there, or did she not write that one? I don't know off the top of my head.
She did. Fever is in there, yeah.
Oh, good. Because I get fever, basically all the fever and chills. That's just my personal misery. But what a wonderful song that is. What did you learn? Since you spoke to Peggy Lee's granddaughter, what did you learn from her that you didn't learn from reading books about Peggy Lee or just news articles of the time?
Well, what I loved about what her granddaughter said, because her granddaughter was able to spend a lot of time with her, was Peggy's personal connection to her fans and to the people she loved. She was a very intimate person. She liked making intimate connections. She said when she would meet with a fan, she would hold their hands and quietly talk to them. And I think there's so much, as people's stories get told and overtold, and the folklore around them becomes more true than their truth. It was nice to hear about her more intimate side and not more the gossipy side. So we were really trying to bring forth. She was a very spiritual person. She was lighting candles and saying prayers. And
I do that every Friday. Yeah.
Yeah, well, as you do. But, she was a very spiritual person before that was in vogue. Now everybody kind of has some sort of spiritual practice and lights candles and touches crystals and all that kind of thing. But she was doing it well before it was in vogue. Now,
you mentioned... I'm sorry, but you mentioned you're doing specifically songs that she herself wrote or co-wrote. So what are other songs, because everybody knows FIBA, what are some of the others that you're going to be doing in the show?
We start out with I Love Being Here With You. What else do we sing? Fever. Now you're making my brain work. And I was working last night. I am thoroughly awake this morning.
Oh dear. Do you do Jerusalem of Gold or what? Sorry.
She wrote all the songs, most of the songs for Lady with the Tramp.
Really? Oh yeah.
Yes, she did. And she recorded them too, so that's her voice you hear.
In the Disney.
There's a lot. I can't even remember which ones are popular, which ones weren't, because they've all become so much a part of me at this point.
Wow. So how long ago did you start on this again?
About a year and a half.
Oh, so it's still fairly recent in terms of...
we're at the very beginning of developing this musical.
Mid-Mazel. By the way, and I want to let people know that if they want to see the developmental part of this musical to be, which is called Miss Peggy Lee in Her Own Words and Music, it's going to be done July 24th and also July 31st at the Green Room 42. And for tickets to that, go to the greenroom42.com. But let's roll it back with Miss Cady Huffman here in the Daverhood. Gotta ask the typical question, when did you realize that you were born to perform?
Oh my God.
What?
Well, apparently, from my own folklore, my mother says I just pretty much came out danced. And
see, I came out complaining. Yeah.
Well, that's why. Well, I won't go on. I don't know. I was surprised to learn that other people didn't know what they wanted to do as children. You know, I just always wanted to take ballet, wanted to take my opera classes, wanted to read Shakespeare, wanted to do all those things. And I was really taken with ballet as a child. But then I found that my ballet teachers were actually calling me Ethel because I sort of was loud in class. So I figured maybe I should go into musical comedy.
Now, were you tall initially? Did you have how tall are you, by the way? You seem a million feet tall, but how tall are you?
I am not. I'm 5'8.5".
To me, that's a million feet tall, but okay, 5'8", 8.5".
6 feet, yes.
So, well understood. And yet, were you tall as a child, like taller than your cohorts, which helped in ballet?
Always.
Or yeah, sorry.
Always.
Oh,
Always
okay.
tall, always long, taller than the boys. You know, yeah.
So, when you switched from ballet or pursuing that kind of dance into musical theater, how old were you at that point?
Oh, I mean, I always did all of it.
Ah.
But I mean, then I started working when I was 18.
What was your first audition for anything? Other than ballet, I guess, or you know, first musical.
I mean, my first audition. Well, it was probably a local production of The Pied Piper of Hamlet.
Oh my! Okay.
Yeah.
Fair
and
enough.
I had one line. It was, "Here they come," and I got my picture in the newspaper in my horizontal striped top, my vertical striped pants. And as soon as I saw my picture in the newspaper, I was like, well, I guess I know what I'm going to do.
Well, that is a thing. That's a very, you know, it's exciting. Even when you're 18, even if you're 68, it's exciting to have that. What was the first major gig that you booked?
Well, when I was 18, I went down to Los Angeles and auditioned to be they're playing our song at La Mirada Civic Light Opera. And I got it. That was my first professional audition.
Wow.
And then still at 18, I auditioned for the Los Angeles company of La Cage aux Folles.
Right.
And I got that. So I did that.
So were you among the kick line of some of them were men, some of them were women? And
yes, I was a teenage drag queen, Rabbi.
I was not. I
absolutely was.
Wow.
And then that was how I got to Broadway as well, was they called me after that. After we closed Los Angeles, they called me to replace one of the original members on Broadway when I was, 20.
So you were living in New York at this point. You were trying to be, coastal when you were doing it at La Mirada, but were you?
No, I was living in Los Angeles.
Oh, you were in LA.
California.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up in California, so I was in Los Angeles when they called to go to Broadway. And I had to think for about 30 seconds. Do I want all my dreams to come true? And I thought, yes, I do. So I packed up all my bags and I flew to New York and went to Broadway.
But it's an interesting thing. If you were going to be a theater/musical theater dance person, why be on the West Coast in the first place, as opposed to living in or near Hell's Kitchen?
Well, I mean, it didn't take me long to get to New York, but I was from California, so it didn't make much sense for me to leave everything behind. And I was working in Los Angeles. You know, there was a lot of video work at that time. And, I was doing musicals. They do musicals in Los Angeles. But of course, eventually I had wanted to go to New York. But, when you're 18 years old and you didn't grow up with any money, like you need someone to tell you can go to New York. I did anyway. I needed someone to say, hey, come on over to New York. Because I was happy. I was working. I was, doing lots of stuff.
So before we let go of La Cage aux Folles, do you have any Jerry Herman stories?
Jerry Herman stories. Well, I mean, he and Harvey Fierstein were at our opening night in Los Angeles, and that was exciting. I was not as close to them as the original cast.
Sure.
Was. But I just remember being a great guy. And then I got the chance to play Dolly Levi much later in my life. And there were all these great Jerry Herman songs that I didn't even know that I knew that were in Hello, Dolly. But, I have only anecdotes from others, mostly from Jerry. He was He is,
Sure.
one of our great popular composers for musical theater.
Now, here's something I want to add, because you, as you said, you played or have played Dolly in Hello, Dolly. So having done that, did you, and I always wonder about actors who've done a part and then have to see other people do the part. Did you see the Bette Midler Hello, Dolly that was on Broadway last season?
I did, yeah.
So when you're watching that, can you just enjoy it, or do you see her up there and say, oh, I was funnier, or I did that differently?
No, please, could I be any more different than Bette Midler? I will let other people be the critics. I am not critical of my fellow performers. I think,
or of yourself.
We'd all deserve a chance, and she's obviously an icon and brilliant. I can learn from her.
I'm not asking you to diss her, but I'm saying when you're watching someone else do a part that you've played, can you let it go and just enjoy the show? Or are you always thinking, oh, I remember when I sang that and I did it this way?
I don't know. It just depends on who I'm watching, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, certainly I get a lot of, little girls sending me videos of them singing Swanted, and I definitely played it different than a 10-year-old or an 18-year-old when I did it. So I find it quite charming and awesome to watch other people sing.
So it brings us
created.
All right. Well, now I want to go in two different directions because I have producer's question, but even still before that, let's move on. Especially since so many people who watch this program and who care about musical theater have been watching the miniseries Fosse Verdon. You worked with Bob Fosse on what I guess was his last show, Big Deal, on Broadway.
Yes, I did.
Give us some Bob Fosse memories.
It's funny you should ask. Last night I was hosting a benefit out here in East Hampton, and we were paying tribute to Bob and Gwen Verdon. And one of his grandchildren were there to accept the honor. Bob Fosse just utterly changed my life. I was 20 years old when I got that part, and I was a terrific dancer. I could do anything, kick my face, spin like a top, jump. But what he required of every performer was, he demanded a lot from us. He made me a better actor. I was required to tell a story through his movement and to be very specific in the movement and very individual. So it was this opening of my artistic life to know that, taking more responsibility for my own, the way I tell stories. I could go on and on. I have stories about the audition. I have stories about the process of rehearsal. I have stories about...
Well, tell one or two. We're interviewing here, saying, I have stories about this, but I'm not going to tell you them. What? Tell me.
They're just long stories. But at the audition, if you've seen, I'm assuming you've seen the movie All That Jazz.
Yes. The Bob Fosse, right, yeah.
Yeah. So the audition was exactly like the opening of All That Jazz, where there's, 1,000 dancers on a Broadway stage, and they even are teaching the same routines that we did for that audition.
Wow.
And Bob Fosse, they would demonstrate a routine, and you'd break down into smaller groups, and he would walk up to every single actor out of 1,000 of us. Every single dancer, he would walk up and either say, thank you, please stay, or I'm sorry, it's not going to work out this time, and release them. He had the respect, the love for dancers, that he would not play those silly games that a lot of people play at auditions, where they can just be downright rude and, ignore an audition, be on the phone during an audition, looking down during an audition. He wasn't. He walked up to every single performer and thanked them and either asked them to stay or to go. And the audition lasted about 3 days.
Oh, my God.
So I kept on. I was in La Cage at the time, so I wasn't thinking I was going to get this show. Somebody even said, you don't even bother going. That's going to be an all-black show. And I was like, well, I really don't care if it's an all-purple show. I really want to dance for Bob Fosse. So I wasn't expecting to get it, which might have been why I did well. I was just excited, not too worried about it. But I kept on making all of the cuts. And at one point, you have to come out by yourself, introduce yourself, and sing a song. And I spell my name a little bit funny. I spell it C-A-D-Y, like Elizabeth Cady Stanton.
Right.
And so I said, "Hi, I'm Cady Huffman, Cady like lady," and I sang my song. And then we did more dancing. He was giving us some very specific, very saucy, sexy movement to do. And I'm doing it. He walks right up to me and says, "Okay, Cady like lady, this is no time to be a lady." I was like, "Oh, okay," in my little pink leotard and ballet shoes. I guess I got to do something a little different. But yeah, so that was exciting. That was thrilling.
Yeah.
And to see it, because I had been on a date when I saw all that jazz. I was 14 years old on a date with Andy Fuller, and we're watching all that jazz, and the dance, Take Off With Us comes on, and Sandal Bergman rips off her top and starts dancing around. My eyes are huge. Andy Fuller leans over to me and goes, "Would you do that?" And I said, "Yeah."
Yes. Yes. But you didn't actually. But if only you did.
I didn't have to do that.
I know.
But I was like, "Yeah, whatever.
Whatever it
If the
takes.
man wants, I will do it."
But one of the negative things that you hear about Fosse dancers is because his movement was so specific that if you dance for him long enough, you get all sorts of physical problems with your ankles and your legs and your stuff that you have to be really, really careful, as opposed to a lot of other choreographers where if you just do your usual limber and loose and exercise and yoga, you're fine. Did you find that working on his show was more of an ordeal on your body?
No. I'd be curious to talk to those dancers who say that. I have never heard that.
Ah, okay.
His stuff is turned in and specific, but I know other choreographers who are much harder on their bodies.
Ooh, like who?
It's just,
Who have you
I'm not
worked
going
with?
to name names, but,
Oh.
there's a lot of not very good choreographers out there who require, you to kick your face, jump, splits, do all these ridiculous tricks for not much result. Whereas Bob, you did not have to do a lot to have a large impact. His movements were not overly, crazy and meant to hurt you, but they were very specific. So yeah, I guess, you could get put into a position that was hard on your body, but I don't see it as any.
Yeah, I mean, I have a problem with
you only live once. Like, if this is what my body needs to do to live, then I'm all in.
Well, I feel that way about Jewish wedding choreographers. They're like, go left, go right, go left, go right. And eventually it just becomes a pile in the middle with a chair falling down with the bride in it. It's a terrible thing.
The papas. We know what a Jewish wedding looks like. We've seen it on Broadway.
Hey, what is the closest, I know you're not Jewish, but what is the closest that you've been to, like, Jewish life? Just curious.
Well, the first boy I lived with was Jewish. So I consider myself Jew-ish.
Okay, be careful with that. What do you mean by that?
Because I'm in theater in New York.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It is such a, very strong culture. We all speak a little bit of Yiddish. We all, it's like, I don't even know how much of the Jewish culture lives in me. I just use words, and somebody says that's a Yiddish word, like, oh, I guess so. My mother taught me tush.
Oh, yeah.
She grew up in New York. Mazel, there's a Meshuggah. These are all the words that just existed in my vocabulary before I knew even what Jewish was.
Wow. Oh, man, you lived. I'm assuming that first Jewish person you lived with was either a doctor or a lawyer? Or a rabbi? No?
No, an actor.
Oh, an actor. Can you, what is it like? Should actors date, or should one that never works out?
I don't know. I mean, there's, Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward figured it out. Sometimes it works great. I mean, if you can really, because you know what each other is going through. Sometimes normal people cannot relate to the artist's life. but it's just up to the individuals. I think it's hard no matter what. I think that 50% of them work and 50% of them don't, and it's pretty much across the board no matter who you choose your first or second time.
Fair enough. So, by the way, who are you with anybody? We get a little personal here in the Daverhood. Who are you?
Really?
What? Sorry? Yeah.
We get a little personal. Well, I have no comment.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Just wondering here.
Are you a married person, Rabbi?
Oh my God! I am married to my dear wife Miriam Libby for many, many years. We have 19 and a half beautiful children. Well,
really?
Well, 15 are beautiful. The other 4 and a half, the inbreeding is a problem. But no, we love them, and we kind of love each other. We tolerate each other. And
And how many years has that been?
Oh, we've been married for going on 92 years. But we do that in dog years.
Straight answer. You are not going to see. So don't expect a straight answer from me.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Don't expect straight answers from me either. But
I get it.
what our listeners can expect is to see Cady Huffman as Peggy Lee in her own words and music, July 24th. So wait, today is the 20th. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's Wednesday. This coming Wednesday night at the Green Room 42, and also on July 31st. Is 2 consecutive Wednesdays?
2 consecutive Wednesdays, absolutely.
Now, for more information on that, go to the greenroom42.com. But so much more to talk to Cady Huffman about, including, of course, the elephant, as it were, in the room, of course, the producers. So, what I don't even know where to begin with that. Do you remember getting the phone call from your agent that said, "You're Uma"?
Well, and that's another good story, because I did not have to audition to be Ula. What happened was I got a call from Vinny Lift, who was the casting director, and he said, "Cady, they're doing a reading of a new musical based on Mel Brooks' film, The Producers, and wondering if you would consider, for this reading the role of Ula." Now, by this point, I was in my 30s, and in the movie, the original movie, Lee Meredith is 19 years old and dancing around in a bikini. So I was like, that's what went through my head, and I said, yes, of course.
Of course.
So we rehearsed for about a week, and then we did 2 readings of this new musical, which really, once you cracked it open, you saw perfection. It was just so well written. And after, Anne Bancroft was sitting 3 feet off my left knee for these readings, and it was packed with all these suits, and the suits were purple in the face, laughing, which does not happen at every reading. They can be rather standoffish. And after the very first reading, Rocco Landisman came up to Mel and offered him the St. James Theater right there on the spot.
Right.
And then after the second reading, it was April 9th, 2000, Mel Brooks walks up to me and says, "Kid, when it goes, you're in." I was like, oh, okay. This is April 2000, and I do a lot of these readings. They usually take years and years and years to happen, but by November, we were in rehearsal, and by May, we had May 2001, we had won all those Tony Awards.
And I like to think that The Producers was one of the things that saved Broadway just at 9/11, because people did not want to go into Manhattan. People wanted to stay away from doing anything in public. Were terrified. And yet, what was it, 2 days after the bombings, The Producers was back up. And it's like, look, I had to spend $200 back then on tickets for The Producers. I'm going,
Yeah, it was a trying time for Broadway, absolutely. And most of the shows were really, really struggling. And kind of what happened, because we were this crazy big hit, is a lot of people couldn't come into Manhattan. Like it was, there was no flying. It happened on a Monday. We were back to work on Thursday. So people coming from out of town were no longer able to use their tickets. So what happened was the New Yorkers got back in line and bought tickets to the show. And we kept selling out. And theoretically, what happened was if they couldn't get into our show, they would go to other shows, because it was really devastating.
Yeah.
It was just would sing God Bless America at the end, and just the whole roof would blow off. And there were so many people just grateful to be able to laugh for a few hours and remember that there is goodness in the world and laughter. And I think I wouldn't credit us with utterly saving Broadway, but we were a key factor at that time. There was a lot going on. The mayor was really encouraging people to come in. I did have friends, bravely flying in from California just to support New York. New York needed a lot of support at that point. So there were a lot of factors, and we all came together in Times Square, and Jerry Mitchell choreographed the entire Broadway community to say, "Hey, we're here. Come back. Let's not let the terrorists win." So there were a lot of different factors, and I think we were able to play a key role in that. Absolutely.
Wow, and I can't believe we've gotten so grim and depressing about of all things. This is like the.
Well, you got to remember, Mel Brooks fought in World War II. He was an engineer in World War II. This is, Springtime for Hitler is a powerful message, and it's told through comedy. But Mel Brooks is a very serious, intelligent person. So the reason we relate to his comedy so well is because of how smart he is, not because it's silly and doesn't mean anything. It all means a lot to him. And Springtime for Hitler is, a crazy parody of a devastating moment in history that he personally lived through.
That's a good
So
point.
I do not discount comedy in any way. I think comedy often tells more of the truth than, whatever you want to call drama. What they say is like anybody can pretend to be serious. You can't pretend to be funny.
Well, I try, but no, you're right. You're right. You haven't seen my show, Shalom, damn it. That's something pretending to be a comedy. But you got to tell me, you got to give me some story. I mean, you were there with Mel Brooks, working with him, and Nathan Lane and Matthew Broderick. Tell us some stories, some anecdotes, please.
Well, I mean, it was extraordinary. I mean, truly, it was the first time and since as well, the only time I've ever done an original piece of theater that never changed. Like Mel Brooks managed to, he'd always had this dream to improve his original film, which he won an Oscar for, by the way.
Right, the screenplay.
So it wasn't, as far as everybody else is concerned, it was fine. He wanted to improve it. So for 30 years, he worked on improving this Academy Award-winning script. And he switched the decade, we went a decade earlier than the original movie. But it never had to change. It was all right out there from the first day. There were maybe like a few little shavings of lines here and there, and the one section of Springtime for Hitler where Hitler has his, Scary Beach, may he rest in peace, the genius comedy of Scary Beach. But he comes down and goes, "I was just a paper hanger, no one muscular." And then, like, the presidents come out and do all this crazy stuff. Like, that was the only part of the show that they worked on over and over and over again. Everything else was done and made sense and was beautifully cast. Nathan and Matthew were both willing to fall on their asses, make mistakes, and make everybody else feel like, let's just go for this, let's learn some stuff, make a comedy. It was the type of room that everybody dreams of being in as a performer.
And you also had
anything went.
The incredible luck of coming out in Chicago. Everybody knew that it was going to be, by the time you hit opening night on Broadway, it was a fait accompli that the thing was going to be huge. You got rave reviews too.
It was crazy. It was crazy because, we were all just making a show. So you get into this, whirlwind. It's the tempest is happening all around you. But we were the quiet eye of the storm, kind of look at each other like, how do we live up to all of this? This is nuts. In Chicago, if I was having dinner with Nathan and Matthew, they would put two people at our table just to stand there to keep people away.
Wow.
Because so many people were coming up to them to say hi. You know, we felt so loved by Chicago. You know, Chicago took ownership of our pre-Broadway tryout, which was beautiful. We had such a great time in Chicago. You know, and they were the first ones. So, that's where the scalping started. You know, ticket prices, tickets were going for exorbitant amounts. By the time we got back to New York, and we're all kind of freaked out, like, how does this translate to the Broadway stage? And then it got even bigger.
Yeah, that was.
So it was a time of coming together as a family, because it's not all just hunky dory. It's a lot of hard work. Everybody wants to interview everybody, particularly Matthew and Nathan. So they're exhausted. We're all exhausted. So we're invited to do interviews. We're invited to do all the parties, which of course you want to go to because it's a once in a lifetime kind of experience. Like, I'm finally one of the Beatles, or as close as I'm ever going to get to being a Beatle. And so you want to do everything. So you're exhausted, you're adrenalized, it was an absolute thrill for that first year, particularly. I think I could sleep about 3 to 5 hours a night, but I would lay down for 8 hours.
Well, let me ask, so many things flying through my head talking to Cady Huffman about all this. Now, you played Ulla in that original Producers for about how long of the show's run?
2.5 years.
2.5. And the show ended up running about, 5 or 6 years? Something like that.
It ran for like 6.5 years, yeah.
This is what I don't understand. And you won the Tony, right, for Ulla?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, by the way, Mazel Tov. So here, you've got this role. You've got a hit that people actually thought at the time would run 20, 25 years. It ran 6. You stayed for 2.5. Why do actors do that? Why leave if you have this guaranteed paycheck for a role that you won a Tony for? So obviously your rate went up week to week to week doing this show than when it was when you were first cast. Why leave?
Well, that's a lot of assumptions, Rabbi.
Oh, okay.
Your fee does not go up and up and up. It just, you have to fight for anything you get. I don't know, if you had to do your services, the service you do on Friday nights, if you had to do it 8 times a week, wouldn't you be tired?
I would be tired, but then I'd look at, what I have. As you said, you grew up with no money. So having the safety and security on Broadway, as when 96% of other performers don't have that, to say, I'm going to audition for other things, and I'm going to try and work here for 6 weeks, and I'm going to go on the road with it. I mean, that is a consideration, no?
Yeah, but by the time I left, I was exhausted. And, a lot of things were going on, and I could work. It also affords you a new type of career, afforded me, more of an acting career than simply musical theater. And you don't get into the arts to do the same thing for years and years and years. There are certainly people who do stay with shows. Right,
but look at Phantom.
We want diversity. We want to see what else is going on out there. We want to create our own things. We want to, that's what art is. It's not a stagnant thing.
Fair enough. Because I do wonder about that. If people finally, as you said, you were in the Beatles. You hit the dream. You hit Lotto on Broadway. And then it's like, after 2.5 years, and true, exhaustion, you're like, nah, let me try this, and it has worked out.
It's hardly that simple. And it does not say the Beatles for all those 2.5 years.
Well, yeah, they brought in Henry Goodman, and for some reason, I don't know, that somebody blew something there. Because the producers could have run as long as Wicked, should have run as long as Mormon, and yet just something spark went out. I don't know why.
I don't know either. I really don't know. I'm not one of the creators. I don't know any of the choices that were being made. I was a hired hand.
Well, that brings us to the next question.
I'm not there making the decision.
Of course. But
I prefer to be in a position where I am directing, producing, creating.
That's right. Aren't you going to be directing a play pretty soon somewhere?
I am directing Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime.
Oh,
because obviously I love those plays with those good long names up in New Hampshire starting August 1st.
that's quite. Are you going to do it the Broadway way with all sort of the light and the? It was a pretty technologically involved show, or at least it seemed to be with the lighting grid. Or you're doing
it was gorgeous. No, I'm doing it in the barn in New Hampshire at Weather Vane Theater.
Mm-hmm.
So we are very simply telling the story. So it's written for that type of spectacle. There's a lot of. There's 57 scenes in Serious Incident.
It's like the Heinz version of theater.
Out how to do that without lumbering through and changing scenery and everything. So we are going to use the technical abilities of space, but we don't have any hydraulics, we don't have any lasers, we don't have any neon. But the story itself is very powerful.
Oh yeah, so, it's about this autistic.
We're going to do our best.
Oh, no, Muslim, because you mentioned that you're directing, and I wanted to get that in there. It's in New Hampshire at the Weather Vane Theater coming up in a few weeks, right?
Yeah, and it's also in repertory. So by the time I get there, my cast will be already performing several plays.
Oh, okay.
And musicals.
Cool.
So my star will be starring in 3 musicals and rehearsing my play.
Gewalt. I mean, good for them. Do you want to talk about exhaustion? There you go. But when you're young, you just do it.
That's summer stock. That's why you do that in your 20s, and it only lasts a summer.
And that's why you dream of being in the producers, yeah. Well, let me ask, though, in terms of casting and some, we're talking, by the way, with Cady Huffman here in the Daverhood. And I'm sure you've had to answer this a zillion times, but at a certain point, years after the show was over, they did make the producers into a movie with Matthew and Nathan, and up as Uma, not you. Why?
Yep.
They could have had everybody. You were all alive then. Gary Beach was still, they could have had everybody.
Yeah, again, I'm not the one making the decisions. I'm not the person to ask. Of course, I get asked about it a lot. I was not consulted. I don't know the answer to that. And I have not seen the movie simply because I can't afford to have an opinion about it because I get asked so much about it. I would rather just leave it to its own thing and appreciate what I have rather than what I don't have.
But do you have any, this is a Jewish thing to ask, but do you have a resentment against, say, Mel Brooks? Because he could have said, I want her.
No, I don't have resentment, but, several years later, Mel did come up and see me in another play and say, hey, really sorry about the movie. They wanted a movie star.
There we go.
So, you forgive, I can't get too excited about a business that I barely understand. The business of Hollywood is nobody really knows what they're doing.
Because I remember, even in theater, because I remember a couple of years later, Cloris Leachman was begging to be in Young Frankenstein on Broadway. And Mel said, that's 8 times a week, you're 70-something. No, and she said, I got more spunk than a 20-year-old. What's the matter with you? And he went with Andrea Martin, which is no small potatoes, as it were. But still, those decisions,
Yeah, they made, the decisions are made. And actors, that's one reason I like creating things, directing, producing, rather than just performing, because, you're basically at the whim of somebody else. You're waiting to be given a job. I'd rather create my own.
Well, speaking to that point, you were a producer on at least one movie. You filmed a Teresa Rebeck play about 15 years ago. Well, what was it like? And how come you haven't produced more movies?
Well, I produced that film in 2000, right before, literally, I was going to leave the acting profession and become a producer.
Whoa.
So my friend and I, Amy Turner, we were Dame Edna S.
Right.
Time.
Yes.
And Amy, who I know from being a showgirl in the Will Rogers Follies, she at this point wants to be a director, which she is now a director. But at that time, she said, do you know any playwrights who write strong roles for women? I said, you should read Teresa Rebeck. So she did, and she came to me with Sunday on the Rock, one of Teresa's older pieces.
Right.
And so the two of us, I read it too, and because we had a lot of time to chit-chat backstage at Dame Edna, and one of us, I'm going to blame her, she's going to blame me, said, hey, I think we could make this into a movie. And then we just sort of started pretending to make it into a movie. And then we made it into a movie. But I was wholeheartedly ready to give up acting because it just wasn't that fulfilling anymore. And it was, you know, again, waiting for somebody else to hire me could be very difficult. And literally we stopped filming, I think, November 1st on Sunday in the Rocks. And then I went right into rehearsal for what would end up being my biggest job yet, which is the producers. So, you know, my plan, as they say, if you want to make God laugh, make plans.
Oh,
So
whoa,
plan,
that's a Jewish phrase right there. Man tracht, Gott lacht.
you
Yes.
see how Jewish I am. You know, it's like, these things are just in me. So, you know, I had made the plan to become a producer and then gotten into the producers. So maybe I wasn't specific enough, but I think it worked out okay for me. So we had, at that time in history, if you wanted to make a film that looked like a film, you had to shoot on film. So
Right.
we actually have a 35 millimeter print of that film. Now, if we were to make a film, we would shoot it digitally, and it would be much cheaper and much easier. So instead of film, I have produced my own web series, which should be coming out this year.
Is that Cady
but,
did
you know,
TV?
That's Cady did, yeah.
How do people get that? How do people
get it?
Yeah.
Well, we haven't put it out there yet, so I will have to get back to you on that. But we do have a Facebook page and an Instagram page, and you know we are figuring out how we would like to release that. But it's like a spoof, you know, like Curb Your Enthusiasm or some other things now that are so popular to do, you know, a star and make them into a fictitious version of themselves. So I thought it'd be hilarious to sort of take like a D-list Broadway star and do an alternate reality of myself. So it's me having to go home because I've, you know, blown it in the big city, and now I have to go home to my small town and run a small cable network there, cable channel, and just deal with being a very, you know, what I think of as myself as a very large fish in a very small pond. But, you know, so.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like people, by the way, can go to Cady Huffman's own website to find out information about when Cady will be on television, and also all the other stuff you're doing, and when to see the show in Rhode Island. It's CadyHuffman.com, C-A-D-Y, Huffman with a U, Cady Huffman. Because, you know, you have to be all different.
Not the Jewish version. Yes.
That's right.
Believe me, I did my DNA because I was hoping for a sliver of Jewish or Chinese or Native American. No.
No, what are you then?
Italian, but apparently French, which none of my family knows, and then Upper West, you know, Scott, Dutch, Upper West, Western Europe.
Got it. Speaking of names that sound like that, tell us a little bit, and please, just a little bit, about a show I do not know about called Revolution in the Elbow of Ragnar Agnarsson Furniture Painter.
Please, just a little bit hilarious. That is an Icelandic rock musical.
Okay.
That I was hired to play. I don't remember I don't remember my character's name because they were all Icelandic names. But it was this wild piece of theater that literally took place inside of a man's elbow. So I went to Iceland to check it out because I was like, what culture has written this bit of craziness? Fell in love with the country. And weirdly enough, bringing it full circle, before I saw it on Broadway, I saw a version of Curious Incidents in Icelandic in Iceland. With none of the bells and whistles from Broadway. So I already, and it's Icelandic, and I still understood the emotional journey of it. So I know that the play is possible without any of that other stuff.
And so what happens in this guy's elbow? I mean, I'm just...
Oh, it's not, you know, it was after their fight, the big financial crisis that the world went through, but it all sort of started in Iceland, right? Where people were blowing up their Land Rovers, and it was all very, very public and very outlandish. So it was about corruption and greed and family values and all those things. But they just happened that we all lived in this.
Because nothing goes on in my elbow except bursitis. If it may be my tuchus, my scrotum, lots of stuff going on there. My knee.
Oh my goodness!
I'm just saying.
Scrotum, Rabbi.
Well, I have a scrotum. The moil didn't miss it. I'm just saying my elbow, my weakness. There's nothing going on there to write a musical about. But speaking,
I'll tell you, there is. If you've ever been to Iceland,
no, not.
There's a very they have finite land mass. There are not very many Icelanders on the planet. They literally have an app on their phone to see how each other are related to each other, so that you don't hook up with your cousins.
It's like they do that in Borough Park. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure they can, right? You all know how you're related.
Yeah.
They all. There's only about 300,000 Icelanders on the planet, so they all know how they are related. It's a very, very strong culture. So it's for them to have an entire world in an elbow does not seem strange because they live on an island.
Now I mentioned also a tuchus. Why did I mention a tuchus? Well, or tush, as you learned it, because you use tush, but
tush, tuchus,
both. Well, you were also in a short film about 15 years ago. I'm just going to throw the title out there. Billy's dad is a fudge packer.
Oh.
I want to know, what is so special about packing fudge? I had a job stocking saltwater taffy in Atlantic City. And if you don't pack fudge just right, it melts. It's not good. What the hell is this movie about?
Well, my dear Rebbe, if you don't know, I'd rather not tell you.
Oh.
It is a spoof, obviously. A very funny short film done in the manner. Did you watch it? Oh,
no,
I know you can see it online.
Yeah, maybe.
It's all done in black and white with that Billy's dad is a fudge packer. All about those crazy films they made in the 50s about how to do things correctly.
I get it now.
Does it that way, whereas Gallant would do it this way. So it's a whole thing about how sister is going to be a great wife. They show her eating a hot dog. And then Billy's dad, it's full of innuendo that I'm not sure is appropriate for your show.
Oh, probably. It would be in his endo, actually, if you think about it. No, I can't.
Well, see, now you're getting it.
Vaguely, just vaguely getting it. What we are getting is just a minute or a couple of minutes more, if you have time, with Cady Huffman here in the Daverhood. Let's pull out. I've been asking some very specific questions about things that you've been in. But what is the funniest thing that ever happened to you in theater, either live on stage or something you saw in the audience? What was just like one of your precious, funny memories in theater?
Well, what always comes to mind is when my pants fell off during the Will Rogers Follies.
Oh, hilarious, yes.
Yeah, hilarious. And I did fling my branding iron into the audience. But thankfully it was not a real branding iron, but you can't tell that till it flies into the audience and doesn't kill somebody. But, I used to rise up out of the orchestra pit, turn around and sing, little old me, all by myself, 26 years old, and that's how the show opened. And there was one night where I'm up there with my branding iron and I start walking across the stage and the audience sees it before I do, but my pants are slowly slipping down my leg. And finally, I get to the other side of the stage. I notice, I step out of them, toss them off stage and keep singing. I had enough clothes on for modesty, but, if I'd actually been naked, I would have exited. But no, my pants just slowly slipped off. I threw them off stage and I kept singing.
These are the things that happen in live theater. It's the reason people go to the one that, it isn't. People go to live theater just to see things going amazingly right. There's that old cliche that, something could go wrong and we're there when it happens once in a... No, you don't want the lights to go out. You don't want to have to leave Hadestown and stand on a street corner in 90-degree heat and hear the cast singing songs a cappella. You'd rather be in a nice air-conditioned theater watching the actual show, you know? But it's just like
exactly. And we had a night at the producers where we had a blackout, and it was near the end of the show, so the courtroom scene sort of stopped in the middle, and all the lights went out.
Ooh.
And then the emergency light came on, and and we, like, well, now what? The crew pushed the scenery on as far as they could manually, and then we all just decided to do the show without microphones, without anything else. We did the rest of the show in emergency light with back then the orchestra was right in front of us, so we could see the conductor. Nothing was amplified, and we finished the show like that, and it was fantastic. The audience was thrilled that they could be there on that night where everything goes wrong, and yet everything goes sort of almost better because you're experiencing something new and exciting.
All right, so I will give you that. That does sound like a wonderful thing to be part of, and then a once in a lifetime kind of thing to witness and be part of. So okay, I'll meet you halfway definitely on that one. And one other question
Thank
here.
you.
People,
Thank you.
oh, you're welcome. I don't meet people halfway on anything. Yeah, I'm a stubborn old Jew. If I go 1 inch, what?
I'm the lucky one.
You are. You absolutely are. Except we're so lucky to have you. And one other TV question, because we want people to get ready to see you in your web series, Cady did, when that is ready. But they do know you from television. You were on Iron Chef for a bunch of years as a what's a funny or your favorite memory from doing Iron Chef?
Yeah, Iron Chef America. Yeah, it was the kind of thing, it's the very first food competition, American food competition show. So it was before Top Chef and all those other things came up. So I think I was still doing the producers at the time, and a friend of mine who was new at Food Network was producing this Iron Chef America, which was based on the Japanese show Iron Chef, which we all loved because it was dubbed and hilarious, and they used all these crazy ingredients. So I get a call from my friend. He's like, "Hey, Cady, you're kind of a celebrity. Would you like to come on our show?" And I was like, "Oh, is there free food?" He said, "Yes." I said, "I will be there." So I did my first episode, and I guess I did okay because they tend to, I was like the every person. Foodies can be a little bit abstract and, talk in terms of that.
But you were sort of sitting in for the audience member, as it were.
So I could say, "Oh, this is green," that's about the extent. "Oh, it smells like spinach," because it's what? Spinach. And
that's what I hear from my proctologist. Yeah.
Oh dear. Oh my goodness. You are Randy. You are Randy, Rabbi.
No, I'm Sol. But
Are you not? So why is it called Days Gone By?
Oh, well, see, I would figure since you've been watching the show for all these years, you would know that Dave is the producer of this program, and he is the main host, but he gets me sometimes to do sermons or to interview wonderful people like you. So it's his...
Well, see, I thought I would be talking to Dave, so I was a little bit surprised when it was Saul.
Oh!
Like a great surprise, Rabbi, but I was expecting to talk to Dave.
Oh, no. Dave, he does certain parts of the show, and then he's kind enough to let me do other parts of the program because I have a certain je ne sais quoi, if you will.
You certainly do, yes.
Yeah, it's part of my work release program as well. Like I get to do this program every week. Yes.
Right.
But see, now that you know the show, you'll understand. You watch a couple of episodes, you'll be like, aha, now I get it. Or most people never get it.
Are you being videotaped then? Like we can see you, but we can only hear me? Is that what's going on?
That is correct. Yes. So my beautiful face is transmitting across Facebook as we speak, and your beautiful face is unfortunately coming through a speaker.
Gotcha.
Right.
Awesome.
So
awesome.
Where the hell were we with Iron Chef? I don't know, something about food.
You said you're talking about Iron Chef. So yeah,
there
were a lot. There's certainly many stories, but I did end up doing it for 10 seasons, and got to eat some of the best food I've ever eaten in my life, became much more educated about food.
That's right. I mean, did
we
you,
would,
having to be on a show like that, did you suddenly have to educate yourself and say, you know what, if I go on here every week and I really have to judge with these other judges, I need to up my game?
well, I think it was more about, I never thought of myself as an expert, so I could listen to them. I could give my opinion without feeling like I needed to sound as smart as they do, because obviously I don't have the same training. But I did learn a lot, and I realized, I actually am qualified because I grew up in an Italian home where every meal was cooked, and it was cooked very fresh. We had great cooks, and it was, we ate a lot of really good food. And then as I got older and went into show business, I traveled the world. So I've been to Vietnam, Singapore, Japan, China. I've been all over Europe. I have eaten a lot of different cuisines.
What's the strangest thing you've been to these countries? Have you eaten?
What's that?
Well, you've been to all these countries. What is the weirdest dish? Because we were talking about this, Dave was talking about this earlier in the show. Have you ever eaten insects? Did they ever give you like some animal that I would never eat this, but you couldn't be rude and you had to eat it?
I'm not. I don't have any food phobias, so I have eaten insects. I've eaten crickets. I've eaten ants.
Oh, okay.
Probably other things. Traveling through China was interesting because I was traveling with a couple of college basketball teams, and the children, the young people, were much more reticent to eat what the Chinese had to offer because it didn't look like American food, and the Chinese are much more, if you order a quail, they're going to receive something that looks like a quail with a head and beak and feet. And
the beak is the best part. I love beak.
Well, to watch a Chinese person eat, there's no waste. Whereas Americans, you don't want to know that it was an animal. You just want to get a little piece of something that looks appetizing and eat it. So you learn a lot going to other countries where there is no waste. I have eaten, I guess maybe it was the giant clam in Singapore is one of their delicacies. It's that gooey duck clam.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah. So I ate gooey duck in Singapore, which was delicious. And they do this mountainous kind of almost an Italian sauce all over it.
Ooh.
But I've eaten lots of stuff. I've eaten street food in Vietnam, so I really don't know what I was eating, but it was delicious.
Okay, good. No stray cats in that neighborhood. What?
What's that?
No, I just said that no stray cats in that neighborhood. I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing. It's an old joke.
I did not see anybody eating cats, but who knows? But on Iron Chef, the only time they ever called me and said, "Will you do this episode?" was when we did the awful episode, OFFAL, which is basically everything that falls off of a butchered animal. So we could be eating pig's ears, tripe, trotters, feet, and we could be eating kidneys. We were eating everything, and I said, "Yeah, sure, I got no problem with that stuff." So one of the most delicious things was Michael Simon made this beautiful chocolate truffle just on the side of whatever the dish was. And I tasted that truffle. I said, "Michael, why is this the best, most creamy truffle I've ever had?" And he said, "It's because I made it only for the texture with duck liver."
Oh, Pet, yeah, well, sure, yum. I love that.
Of course, makes sense, right?
Yeah. No, some of the other things you were saying, actually, for the first time in my life, I felt happy that I was kosher. I didn't feel I was missing out. Pig knuckle things.
I can't imagine. How do you survive being kosher? I don't get it.
I don't get it either, but I do it. This is Jews. We don't question, we just do.
I'm glad, yes.
But there is no question that we have had an absolutely marvelous, delightful time talking with Cady Huffman in the Daverhood. She's been so kind to stay with us. I just one more question for you, but first, we want to remind everybody that she is at the Green Room 42, which I imagine is on 42nd Street. It would be rather stupid if it weren't. The Green Room 42, that is this Wednesday evening and next Wednesday evening, doing her show, her development developmental musical bio of Peggy Lee, Miss Peggy Lee in her own words and music. For more information about that and also about her directing project she's doing, The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime in Rhode Island, and she'll also be having her TV show in a couple of months that you can watch. Find out all this information at cadyhuffman.com. And yes, I will spell it out again because my viewers have no memory. CadyHuffman. cadyhuffman.com. Cady, last question, and you've been so kind to stay with us all this time, but I'm curious, and it doesn't have to be a Peggy Lee song. What is your favorite song of all time?
Oh my goodness, my favorite song. Well, that is an impossible question.
I know. It's not Hava Nagila, but
what's that?
it's not Hava Nagila. I assume it's not that one, but I'm
I can
kidding.
sing it though, you know.
Yeah, so
And there are certainly songs from Fiddler on the Roof that are some of my favorites. I can't even answer it. I tell you, I sing whatever song I'm currently working on. Last night I sang Life is Just a Bowl of Cherries, which is one of my favorites. That's one of the songs I've sung for the most years. You know, I've sung it for more than 30 years.
wow.
But right now I really love the Peggy Lee song, I Love Being Here With You. You know, it's just a real sweet introduction to, you know, camaraderie and beauty.
And talk about giving us a segue to go out on. I love being here with you. We have loved being here with you, Cady Huffman in the Daverhood. It just remains for me to say thank you again. It's been wonderful. I invite you back anytime. Well, not next week. Give it some time because.
Saul, you're adorable. One of the best interviews I've ever had. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. We just got a thumbs up, and God bless you, and shalom to you.
Shalom. Shalom.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Cady Huffman in the Daverhood. Oh, mit Mazel, mit Glick. And let's hear a bit of her.
They sent me this list of songs that I didn't know any of the songs on, except one that I performed as a senior in high school. I played Nancy and Oliver. And I was, at the time, 17 years old, training to be a coloratura soprano. So Nancy is very much an alto. So, of course, in high school, you know, they won't transpose anything, so they can't transpose the whole orchestra, the band. So I would do this song like, as long as he... Oh, yes, he does. Was basically what it sounded like. But today, when we rehearsed it, turns out at 113 years old, I have the notes. So, and I almost had all the lyrics. So I'm like, we're gonna do it. She's gonna, you know, yell them out if I forget. Let's do it. As long as he needs me. Oh, yes, he does need me. In spite of what you see, I'm sure that he needs me. Who else would love him still when they've been used so real? I know I always will, as long as he needs me. I miss him so much when he is gone, but when he's near me, I don't let on the way I feel inside, the love I have to hide, the hell I've got my right, as long as he
and we need wonderful guests like that every week, or almost every week, in the Daverhood on this radio, no, well, it's not a radio program anymore. It's a Facebookio, podcastio, programmio of the stream. With me, Dave Lefkowitz, hosting Dave's Gone By. We apologize to Cady Huffman for, I'm sure we told her that the interviewer would be Rabbi Sol Solomon as opposed to little old me. But hopefully she said it was one of the best interviews she's ever had. So that is really cool. And we were absolutely delighted to have her in the Daverhood. Go see her in the Peggy Lee show this coming Wednesday and also next Wednesday. Go check out her website as well, cadyhuffman.com. Well, it is 5 minutes already after 11 o'clock in the morning Eastern time here in the New Yorkie Daverhood. Welcome, by the way, to Tom and Michael and Robert from high school. Hey, Robert and Lynn and Tony and Wayne and all those other folks who are tuning in the early part of the show. And also welcome to the folks who specifically tuned in to hear our interview with Cady Huffman. Stay with us because the show has more to do. I wouldn't say we're just getting started, but heck, we have Greeley Crimes and Old Times coming up. We'll have a little bit more of Storytime, where we're going to learn a bit more about why fish fart. Yes, we are. And we have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, where we go to Durango, Colorado this week. And oh my God, our quiz of today, yesterday. So I'm going to throw it to my wife, who's busy working on an article. So do you want to keep working and I'll do another segment? Why don't you work on that? I'll do Inside Broadway, so we'll segue into that. And then we'll get to some of the lighter bits later on. So we're going to go into one of my favorite parts of the Dave's Gone By program. Has to do with the fact that I've been a theater critic, a playwright, a director, an actor, all these years, and a theater journalist for 31 years now. So I love the theater, as you can tell from the way this show is designed, and I love talking about Broadway and sharing Broadway news with you every week. The segment is called Inside Broadway. Inside Broadway, a look at theater on and off Broadway and beyond. Brought to you by Total Theater and Performing Arts Insider. Curtain going up. Inside Broadway we go every week here in the Daverhood. I try and do it as quick as possible. I know people who aren't necessarily into the theater, but like this program, kind of wish I was doing, just talk less about theater, we don't care. But I care, and I hope that transmits to you and makes you want to take in a Broadway show. A Broadway show, for example, like What the Constitution Means to Me. That is it's not a one-person show, it's actually a three-person show created by Heidi Schreck, all about what the Constitution means to her and her life and what women feel being women in this country, both 200 years ago, 250 years ago, and now, and what the rules and laws of America mean to them. And is it time to scrap the Constitution or revise it, or just keep it the way it is and just work within its parameters? Because it's done pretty well by most people in this country, most of the time, perhaps. Anyway, it's a show that's very engaging, gets people involved, and here's the cool thing. It moved from pretty much off Broadway, found the Broadway home, got really good reviews, became a cause celeb, and now it is officially a hit. As of last week, What the Constitution Means to Me earned back its $2.5 million capitalization. The investment that people make to get the show on Broadway, and week to week, week to week, there's the box office, there's grosses, which go to pay the running costs every week of what it is to put on for that week, and then pay back the amount that it takes to get the show up in the first place, and then, ba-boom, you're in profit, you're in the black, you're a hit. Well, What the Constitution Means to Me is a hit, and it still has almost a month to run. It's running through August 24th at the Helen Hayes Theater on Broadway. It was actually, this one I don't even understand, it opened on March 31st at the Helen Hayes, and was supposed to close a couple of weeks ago, but because it was so popular and got such great notices, it kept extending. But how did the producers figure they'd make a profit on a show that was supposed to close in the first place a month ago. And it didn't become profitable until this week. I still don't really know the Broadway economics to understand that question. But anyway, after Broadway, they're going to do they're going to return to the Kennedy Center, where I think it tried out, do a week or two there, and then it's going to go on a national tour in September. So congratulations to Heidi Schreck. I had my issues with the show, but it's definitely worth seeing what the Constitution means to me. Well, speaking of Broadway theaters themselves, got some news this week about the Palace Theater on Broadway. Now, what show is currently in the Palace Theater? Trick question. There isn't any, because it's been under renovation for the past couple of months. They got permission to renovate the Palace Theater. It is a landmarked building. And what they're doing with it, TSX Broadway is the main engine on this, is, and the theater is owned by the Nederlander organization and Stuart F. Lang. But they're making a big complex out of it, kind of like what they did with the Marriott Marquis. So there's going to be a hotel, and there's going to be retail shopping, and there's going to be all sorts of stuff that actually makes a lot of money. But they're going to keep a theater. They're going to bump it up. Currently, the Palace Theater has about 1,700, 1,800 seats in it. One of the biggest theaters on Broadway. Now they're really going to make it for big musicals, and it's going to be a 2,200 seat theater once they reopen it in, when is it? It's going to be late 2022 by the time they get the Palace Theater back open. So it will, at that point, be the largest theater with the most seating on Broadway. So it's going to be interesting. They're going to have a place where maybe Hamilton can move, and instead of making $3 million a week, it'll make $4 million a week. So it goes. So goes Broadway. Hey, up where it belongs? Question mark. We were joking before about Broadway grabbing all these films and turning movies into musicals, one after the other this year. We had Tootsie, we had, The Band's Visit the year before that, just one after another, Mean Girls. They figure it's a property. Something has to be adapted because it's very tough to write something from scratch. The story's there, the characters are there, put in the songs. Sometimes it works like gangbusters, sometimes it doesn't work at all. Mostly it's kind of in the middle. We're going to see what happens with the latest property that is getting the musical treatment, might reach Broadway. And it's An Officer and a Gentleman. You remember that one with Richard Gere and Deborah Winger, and the iconic scene of him carrying her, etc., in his naval uniform. Well, An Officer and a Gentleman is being adapted by Dick Scanlon and Charlene Cooper Cohen. Well, I think it's at the last... I barely even saw the movie once, and I don't remember, but everybody knows that image of Richard Gere holding Deborah Winger. Wait, who? Oh! This is not me, ladies and gentlemen. This is my wife, Joyce, saying.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did. You heard it somewhere. This is her joke. I take no responsibility for this, even though Rabbi Sol was just talking about a movie about a fudge packer. Joyce said that Richard Gere wasn't holding Deborah Winger, he was holding a gerbil. Shame!
Because I'm an animal lover.
Yeah, sure you
I
are.
love animals. I'm sure he was holding a gerbil.
Right. People can't hear you much all the way, so you really gotta yell if you're all the way over there. Oh, whoa, okay. But anywho, so they're making this into a musical, adapting the screenplay, I guess, by Douglas Day Stewart. It's going to feature, this is one of those that'll be more jukeboxy. They're not writing a new score for it. They're going to use songs from the 1980s, from that era. And yes, somewhere in there, someone will sing Lift Us Up Where We Belong, the Joe Cocker hit that the movie really launched into the stratosphere. It's a love story that takes place in the Navy. I don't even remember what the hell the movie was about. It's going to start... There's no gerbling yet. And we'll have a tour starting in the fall. Actually, I really don't necessarily know that there are no gerbils in it. Oh. Did you ever know that you're my gerbil? You are the teeth beneath my wings. Something like that. I think it's true. But anyway, after the fall 2020 tour, it may or may not come to New York or to Broadway. It's being staged by, Patricia Wilcox is doing the choreography, and she did the choreography for Motown, the musical, a couple of years back. She did. Joyce keeps saying she did the choreography for mine. She's doing that comedy thing, which really works, of keep repeating the same thing over and over. Joyce says, no, that's actually called dementia. So I have to keep repeating everything because only I can hear it when we're all the way over there. But you guys can see this. We couldn't do this segment. What?
I don't want to be there.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Inside Broadway
I don't like you. You smell like
is based on, well, what am I saying here? This magazine, this journal, Performing Arts Insider, has been the Bible of Broadway. Let me turn this way so I can move this way.
done by Richmond Shepherd, who was done with Jesus.
Yeah. Well, it was not founded by our friend Richmond, but in 1944, people needed a way to find out what? Yeah.
They needed food in 1944.
Yeah, 1944, they were still rationing, but they weren't rationing information about New York theater. Back then, it was mostly just Broadway, but now Performing Arts Insider does Broadway off and off Broadway 21 times a year. This is the journal that people in the entertainment industry turn to when they need to know very detailed information about every single show. So, for example, what's the show? I think we mentioned, Rabbi Sol mentioned Hadestown rather briefly, playing on Broadway at the Walter Kerr Theater. Look at all this information about Hadestown. This is the list of the producers. Not the producers that Cady Huffman was in, but all the people it takes to produce a show like Hadestown. And each of these has backers and investors. So just imagine the list to get up a show like that on Broadway. Do you want to know who these people are, how to contact them? Do you want to know the press agent handling the show, the awards the show has won? Do you want to know who's in the cast, including our friend of the Daverhood, Andre DeShields, the designers, the creators, how to contact them, the synopsis of the show? Well, yeah, people are missing this because they can't hear what you're interjecting, and yeah. Anyway, it's also the theater that it's in, the location, and the dates that the show story previews and opens and runs until. We do this. Here's just Hadestown. Now think of all that info for every single show on, off, and even off Broadway. Just page after page, hard copy page of Performing Arts Insider. It has an index, it has a table of contents, it's got also a calendar listing day by day by day of what's happening on the stages of New York. So for example, if we go off and off Broadway for today, July 20th, what do we have? Anything happening today? Well, one show is ending. It's called The White Dress, off Broadway at the Access Theater. And then tomorrow, a show's opening called Two's a Crowd at 59 East 59th Street. And then a bunch of shows are closing, including the Fresh Fruit Festival, Leaving Eden. These are all part of the New York Musical Theater Festival, I think. So yeah, day by day. Where do you get this information? Nowhere else but the pages of Performing Arts Insider. For more information, please go to performingartsinsider.com. Now remember, the magazine is not online. It's a hard copy, but you get it by subscribing, and all that information is at performingartsinsider.com. It's expensive, but the people who subscribe, they renew year after year after year. Because Joyce says they have no choice. That's right. Because they can't get the information. If they want this information, if they want the handiest, most useful, most practical, and most complex, or what should we say, most complete listing of Broadway and off Broadway, Performing Arts Insider is the place to get it. PerformingArtsInsider.com. You can also pick up a single issue at Theater Circle, which is on West 44th Street in Manhattan. That's, I think, the only place you can get standing single issues, unless you send away for one. PerformingArtsInsider.com, the Bible of Broadway. And also I want to remind you that the Total Theater Company, which puts out Performing Arts Insider, also has a website called TotalTheater.com. It's absolutely free. It's filled with thousands of theater reviews from Broadway, off, regional theater, international, festivals. Go there. Go have fun surfing TotalTheater.com. As a matter of fact, we just put up a review of a revival of True West, not the Broadway one that was done a couple of months ago, but they brought it back to Steppenwolf in Chicago that gave the world True West in the first place, the Sam Shepard play. They're doing it in a very different way than Gary Sinise John Malkovich did it all those years ago.
Nude with gerbling.
And our Joyce saying they're doing it in the nude with gerbling. No, but it is a partially African-American cast, so that's different.
Awesome. They actually realize that much of the world is not white.
Yeah.
Amen.
Well, our great friend Mary Shen Barnage reviewed the show. You can read her review, which was just posted this morning. Shen Barn on TotalTheater.com. So do give that a look. If the camera is shaking a little bit, if it's moving, it's because our dog.
He's trying to eat the Torah. He's trying to eat the Torah.
Oh, that's not good. Yeah, I'm going to move this out of his way. So.
He's trying to eat the Torah, baby.
Oh, Lordy.
Our dog's an anti-Semite.
Let's get God. Well, he's of German extraction. Here we go. Let's get to some more inside Broadway news for you. One of the shows that I really liked over the past few years was seeing Bryan Cranston playing Lyndon Johnson in a play called All the Way. It was written by Robert Schenkkan, who won a Pulitzer Prize for the Kentucky cycle many, many years ago. Now he was back with writing a trilogy about the flaws and also the triumphs that are kind of lesser known these days of Lyndon Baines Johnson, the president right after Kennedy. It was 3 hours long. It went in about 10 seconds. When I saw the first part of the trilogy All the Way about 3-4 years ago. Obviously, Cranston went on to do Network this past year on Broadway. Well, Schenkkan has completed the second in his LBJ trilogy. It's called The Great Society, and it's going to be on Broadway. They're going to be putting it in Lincoln Center's Vivian Beaumont Theater, even though I don't believe it's a Lincoln Center production. But that is going to be happening for a limited 3-month run, and it's starting very quickly. It's going to start previews September 6th. So they brought that in real quick. What happened was My Fair Lady closed after a year and a half, and they had this opening. So they said, hey, let's bring this in here. It will be called The Great Society at the Beaumont. It's all about Johnson. He's now president, and he's staying. Now it's in the 3 years of him being elected for the term, not just taking over for Kennedy. And his dealings with the civil rights issue, because the first part.
What's the civil rights issue?
Well, in the first play, All the Way, was mainly about him just trying to pass some kind of civil rights legislation that, trying to deal with Southern senators and Northern people and make deals and jerry-rig some kind of flawed, but at least some inroad into getting rid of segregation, into making, blacks and whites equal in America, which was very important to him. Well, he did that. That was the first play. Now he has to deal still with more civil rights stuff. We get deeper into the 60s, and of course America is getting deeper into Vietnam, which would be the Achilles heel of the LBJ administration, and take away from all the stuff he was doing to create a great society. So there's a ton of stuff for Robert Schenkkan to work with. We'll all see it opening in, probably opening late September, early October on Broadway at the Vivian Beaumont Theater, The Great Society. Well, I mentioned early in the show and at this time of year, July, August is really tough on Broadway. Everything after the Tony Awards. If the Tonys didn't give you a big goose at the box office, you have to somehow deal with touristy times for the summer months. And then if you make it to the fall, you're dealing with all these other new musicals and plays coming in that are your competition. Because the people who wanted to see your show have seen your show. So unless they're coming back, now they're going off to see these new shows coming in. And it makes it tough for shows to stick around. Well, a lot of years, shows did stick around. They open for a season and they become pretty entrenched hits. And they stay in that theater and cling to it year after year after year. But this year, kind of different. This year, a lot of shows that open this season, they wanted to hang on, and we've seen them drop off like flies. Be More Chill, The Prom not doing so well.
Why not?
I think I actually closed already. It will be closing in a week or two. Sometimes they even got really good reviews. Sometimes audiences really love them. But for various reasons, shows close, or they just don't make it. Or in this really all or bust Broadway economy, it's not enough to do just okay, right? If you're just barely making it, another show wants your theater really, really badly, and you'll get put, yeah, it sucks. In a lot of ways, it sucks. But this season, this summer, has seen a real shaking out, and a lot of shows falling by the wayside. Among them, after several years on Broadway now, it's time for Waitress to hang up her apron. This is the musical by Sarah Bareilles, directed by Diane Paulus. It was based on a 2007 film by the late Adrienne Shelley about this waitress who's really good at making pies. She's got kind of an abusive husband, but there's a local doctor who's kind of cute, and they fall in with each other. And it's been a real popular show. The critics were mez, but people, there's a certain core, especially female Broadway audience, that has made Waitress a real hit. And it opened...
That's because that's what most actresses and actors do.
That's right, yeah. Also, what else do actors and actresses do before? Actually, Sol should have asked Cady Huffman if she had any day job things in her...
He was too busy looking at her bazongas.
That's right. Joyce says he was too busy looking at her bazongas. Very nice. Very nice, Joyce. Thank you. Anyway, the show will be ending January 5th, 2020. So you have still half a year to go catch or go recatch Waitress on Broadway at the Brooks Atkinson Theater. When it closes in early January, it will have run 33 previews and 1,544 regular performances. Okay. The current cast of... Okay. Joyce is just like... she is really busy at work on an article that we've written together, an academic article about theater. It's about the staging of plays and how old people are represented in them. And it's just, we've been revising it because, oh boy, some journal says that we may want it if you do all these revisions to it. We still may not. And we've been dealing with that for about 2 years now with various publications. But they keep you dangling. They keep you like the fish looking at the bait. It's like, you might get published in this fairly high-level journal if you just keep working at it. And yeah, and keep revising and send it to us. And it's like, oh, you're almost there. Do some more revisions and send it to us. And then the editor quits and it's a whole new staff and then they don't want it anymore. That's basically the story of academic publishing in a nutshell. But anywho, Waitress closing on Broadway on January 5th, 2020. Let's see what else do I want to let you know. Oh, and not just Waitress, but Beautiful, the Carole King musical.
Oh, you love that.
Which has a book, by the way, by our friend of the Daverhood, Douglas McGrath, and of course songs by Jerry Goffin, Carole King, Barry Mann, and Cynthia Weil. Not Barry Manilow, who's coming to Broadway imminently, but Barry Mann and his wife Cynthia Weil.
What's the last name?
Weil.
How come they're not my people?
I don't know.
Are they relations?
Anyway, but this show has been running quite a while. It opened back in 2014. So after 5 years, however, Beautiful, the Carole King musical, which has been averaging about $600,000 in grosses per week, kind of needs more. Or it's one of those things that's run long enough, it's time for it to cycle out. So it will be ending at the Stephen Sondheim Theater October 27th, 2019. So yeah, you still have a couple more months to catch Beautiful. It's a very good show.
Thank you, Jesus.
I'm not the biggest fan of jukebox musicals, but this is definitely one of the better ones. You'll know most of the, or you'll know a bunch of the songs, and they're well placed throughout the show. It's a very well done piece. It will have run 60 previews and 2,418 regular performances by the time it closes in October. As a matter of fact, by then, it will have been the 27th longest running show in the history of Broadway.
Longer than this one?
So, in honor of Beautiful, the Carole King musical, and of course our friend of the Daverhood, Douglas McGrath, who wrote the book, let's hear a song, one of my favorite songs in the show, and a Carole King number I didn't even know existed until I saw the show. This is one of the early numbers in Beautiful, the Carole King musical. It might as well rain until September with original cast member Jesse Mueller.
Okay, kid, let's hear your song.
What should I write? What can I say? How can I tell you how much I miss you? The weather here has been as nice as it can be. Although it doesn't really matter much to me. For all the fun I'll have while you're so far away, it might as well rain until September.
Well, we don't have rain here. We got a major heat wave here on Long Island. But boy, we're hot to do this show every week. The Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz, with, of course, Sol Solomon, interviewing Cady Huffman, and, of course, my wonderful, darling, and adorable wife, Joyce, who is now going to join us a lot closer so you can actually hear her when she's commenting. And So what else do we have to do on this program? Because I know if you're tuning in now, you missed Cady Huffman. Watch it in the archives when we put the archive. And of course, our dog is getting antsy again. Hey, boy.
He was trying to eat the Torah. This is what he
Aren't
wanted.
we all? So this was here for Rabbi Sol when he needed it. And so the dog was nibbling on the nipples of Torah there. This is the only Torah I've ever seen with udders. You know, I'm milking that joke too much. You know, thank you very much. Welcome, by the way, to Tony and Wayne, Deborah, Lane. Oh, that rhymes there. Tony and Wayne and Deborah and Lane and Lynn and Robert from my high school. I mentioned him before, and Diane from the library where I've been spending a lot of time recently. So welcome to all of you. You still picked a really good time to tune into the show.
The librarian wants to see that you read the book Why Fish Fart.
Oh, that's
Librarians are very people of the book. They want to solve the deep questions.
more story time coming.
Show them the Dewey Decimal Number for the librarians.
Yeah, I don't want to show the
Just show
library.
them.
But,
Well, no, here, this part. You can show this right here.
oh, no, the
That's
big
a-
one down there. Yeah.
In case they want to look it up, you got to show them.
What do
Where
you-
does it
I'm not
go?
sure. Oh, there's the call
See
number.
the call number in case people want to look up the book.
Yeah.
They might want to read along.
And you know, notice I've been spending time in the children's section of the library, which is when I'm not supposed to go within 100 feet of children. But there you go. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Little baby doll.
We'll have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned coming up for Durango, Colorado. We're gonna, let's see, and what else? I just did Inside Broadway. That's good. We have our friends of the Daverhood. We have our Yesterday quiz. So be ready for that. That's coming soon. Oh, it's
wilted, yes.
no. Joyce's mescaline is wilted. No, you don't have to bring it. Just come sit down so we can get to our next segment. Yeah, this is what we're having for lunch. We showed this before. This is fantastic. Okay. Well, and by the way, thanks for all of you who tuned in at 9 o'clock and are still watching, as well as those of you who are just tuning in now to Dave's Gone By. It's a little bit after 11:30, and it's time to do one of my favorite segments. We call this Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Yeah, da-da-da-da, it is. So here's the deal, and here's why I'm still mad at our hometown paper, the Greeley Tribune. And I'm not just mad because they're going the way of all flesh in terms of publication. Our dog is busy eating the Torah. I just do this show. She's in a whole different world there. Yeah. That's blasphemy right there.
Can you hold it?
No, I can't hold him. Hold on, there we go.
He's got a problem. Let him go.
Oh,
Okay,
oh,
okay, good. Grab it, grab the
I
Torah.
got it. Right. That's going over there.
Okay.
You're going over there.
Yes,
I'm over here.
yes.
We're doing Greeley Crimes and Old Times. We did pick up another viewer when we held the dog up, so that's kind of
I'm
good.
showing the Torah. What's that?
There we go, Greeley Tribune. Now, what they're
Show them
supposed to
how
be
she's
doing,
killed.
and this is the kind of newspaper where sometimes they have a very normal front page. I love showing this every week. And sometimes they have a page like this. This is the front page of our local newspaper. All the ways a tree can kill you, including
I heard there was
a stabbing homicide.
I heard there was an epidemic a tree homicide.
This is real. This is a real newspaper, folks. Yeah. So, they're supposed to be doing 2 different columns every week in the Greeley Tribune. One of them called Cop Log, of phone calls that come into the Greeley Police Department. Or if he's upset because he's not able, he can chew the Torah only once after we're done with the show. But Cop Log, where phone calls come into police dispatch from people who really, really need more help than they think they even need. And then there's Greeley 100 years ago, where our friend Mike Peters goes into the newspapers from 1919 and plucks out funny, weird items from the news way back when. Well, shame on the Greeley Tribune.
Why?
Because it has now been a month since they've had the Cop Log column. I don't know if the person's on vacation or hopefully dead.
Maybe permanent vacation.
Yeah, or if they're because they're cutting back everything over there, they've cut back on their stories. So there again is no Cop Log for us to make fun of in the Greeley Tribune.
Remember when they made their own video of making fun of their stuff?
Yeah, they were trying to boost it. They were taking our idea of making fun of the Cop Log stuff that they were putting there. They did a video of it. Who the hell knows? They are still doing Greeley Old Times. So we're going to do some of those. And there is a crime that is weird enough in the regular paper.
Why does your folder say rehabilitation grade summer 2001?
I have no idea. I don't even know. But yeah, I recycle everything. That's what I do. So are we ready? Are we ready for Greeley Times and Old Times?
Oh, I want my special bell. You never use
Wait,
it.
here's a bell. There's a bell right here. So we'll use this if we need it. Oh, yes, of course. So, are we ready? Greeley Old Times, ladies and gentlemen. A new record for, and this would go well with Cady Huffman, for hog weight, since she eats all these different things, for hog weight payment was set this week in Chicago. Hogs sold, how much do you think hogs sold for in 1919?
I don't eat the pig.
Per pound, per 100
$7.
pounds. No.
2 cents.
They went for $22.40 per 100 pounds
That's
back in the
good.
day. Yeah.
Everyone loves eating the pig.
Yeah. I like
Pig
to
eater.
report this because I'm kind of hammy. And we went into hock. Oops. Oh. Ooh. Make noise. Make extra
You
noise.
want the chicken?
No. Gegger.
Oh!
Hobo alert! Hobo alert! Do you want to explain to people what hobo alert is?
No, I do not.
Well, I will then. One of the
You
cool.
can put the part on the phone.
What part on the phone?
Click on.
Yeah. I'll get through this somehow. So, one of the cool things about the old time stories. Stop that.
Trevor!
Thank you very much.
Trevor!
Oh. The story is 100 years ago.
Say about hobos. They have 2 major themes.
Thank you. Yes.
One is
chickens. That's right. They would do stories about loose chickens and how that was a problem in town. Let's have our cameo by our chicken. Oh, I know. And also homeless people, which were called back then hobos. They were terrible, terrible difficulty for northern Colorado back in the day, and they would always wind up in the newspapers. For example, hobo alert, the police chief arrested 49.
Oh my God! It's a roundup.
And notice what they would call them.
Wait, is that one of the ice raids? What's it?
Check it out. 49 homeless undesirables
Whoa.
over the weekend. That's what they were called in the papers back then. But let them all go after they appeared in court, and it was found no laws were broken. However, the judge made them, or the police chief made them promise to leave town if they couldn't find a place to live. I guess was vagrancy that big a thing?
But think about it. Even in Greeley, we don't have a large homeless population.
Right.
We have a shelter. But
Yeah.
Loveland has more homeless people.
Right.
So I wonder.
And I guess loitering is an illegal thing.
I don't know. I mean,
Hmm.
they're not doing or peeping. They're not stealing. They're not doing drugs. Look at the library downtown. Everyone used to hang out there. I mean, was that illegal?
In the daytime, probably not. If they put up a sleeping bag, the thing is probably... Yeah. And actually, there's even a contest that you can join and win a vagrant. Yeah. But you have to play the loitery. Loitery, get it?
They had some kind of sick tourism in the favelas of Sao Paulo, right? That you could live in a favela. I mean, it's craziness.
Well, anyway, a visitor to Greeley purchased a piece of pie in a restaurant.
Good.
Or purchased a piece of pie in a patisserie. While he was eating it, he saw a rat climb in the cupboard and eat the remainder of that pie.
Oh.
He complained.
Well, maybe the rat was, hungry.
Well, it would, yes.
Well, maybe it was a gerbil.
Yeah, I love how things come around. Yeah. So he saw the rat. He complained, and he was told that Greeley has a rat overpopulation problem. The city's working on the problem. Whom do you think have agreed to help exterminate the rodents?
The Germans?
Oh, that's good.
I don't know.
That's Jewish rodents.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
yeah.
No, I don't know.
Boy Scouts.
Oh, that's disgusting. I pledge to serve.
Yeah. I mean, what do? They tie those knots that they make and lasso
I
them?
think they get their BB, what is that, BB shooters and shooters.
Oh, maybe. Oh, as opposed to trapping them.
BB shooters. Yeah, they're mean. Those Boy Scouts are savage. It's
Wow.
going to be like, what's that? Oh my God. The Island of Old Boys where they like run
Oh,
amok.
Lord of the Flies.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
going to be like Lord of the Flies for the Boy Scouts. They'll love it. They don't need summer camp, just,
And it's like, I got the conch. Anyway, I've got 5 Lefkowitz. I got him.
Yes, you do.
A young girl. Ooh, a young girl. Miss Marjorie Hewitt of 18th Avenue was playing with friends in a hayloft.
Oh, this is not going to end well.
Doesn't end well, no.
There's a hay drop.
Well, actually, it does. It actually ends really well.
Okay.
She fell 8 feet
Oh no.
and landed with her head in a bucket of water.
She would be dead if she fell 8 feet and
8 feet.
landed with her head in a bucket of water. Guess what?
What?
She would have, the weight of her body would have crushed her head and broken her neck.
Neck, right.
Yes.
Instead, the line here is, how she escaped serious injury is a miracle.
It is a miracle.
Yeah. Now, Jack was with her and he broke his crown. But
I think she should have fallen into the hay and she would have been better off.
Hey, yeah.
That's.
Well, yeah.
I don't believe she escaped serious injury. I just think they couldn't protect it.
Oh, maybe she...
Yeah. She's like, I'm fine. And then, her
Yeah.
head falls off a year later.
Well, she had loftier goals. Hey there. All right, I'm going to bail on the subject. Okay. Anywho, are you ready?
Okay.
There is a crime.
Show them your shirt. It's so pretty.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
I
This
love
is
that shirt.
this I got when the American Theater
Where
critics
is it?
were in
Florida?
Boca. Or
Boca.
Coconut
Boca,
Grove, Wales.
darling.
Speaking of theater, yeah.
I
Kinda
love
cool.
Boca.
So if you want me to advertise your product or service or
That's a
show,
beautiful shirt.
I'll wear this shirt and I'll show more or this kind of shirt.
Is that theater
Just
still in
pay me.
existence? Is it still?
I think the Coconut Grove. I'm not sure.
It's a beautiful shirt.
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Whoever designed that, it's really pretty.
I got a lovely bunch of coconuts. Did you? Yeah, just old song. It's better when Cady Huffman does it for some
I
reason.
would think so.
Yeah. Anywho, let's do a crime. There is one crime that we got recently from the newspaper.
Here, when you do the crime, after you read it, I want you to reenact the crime with the card, okay?
I'll try.
So I'm going to
Yeah,
pick
that's
the
a
card
challenge.
first.
Yeah.
And then once you say the crime story,
Don't show it to me
No, you're going to pick it.
Oh, all right. Let me.
It's so tight in here, I can't open it.
That's what she said. Let me have the card.
It's stuck in the hole.
That's what she said also.
Shut up.
Right. Let me have it.
Grab one.
Okay, I'm going to take a card. Hey, there we
I'm
go.
showing the
But I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it until I'm ready because I'll start overthinking early on.
Okay, so now read the crime, and then you're going to have to say it in,
Okay.
in verse.
Here we go. First of all, here's the crime.
Okay.
Coming out of Denver, this is an Associated Press story. An Adams County woman has been convicted of poisoning her father
Ugh.
and encasing his body in
Oh, no.
concrete
Ew.
in a crawl space under their home.
Why would you do that? Any of that?
Well, I guess they didn't get along.
Oh, that's
Well,
true. Fine.
Yeah. The Denver Post reports that 45-year-old Dana Michelle Jennings, was convicted on Monday of first-degree murder
That's horrible.
and tampering with a human body.
Oh, God, David, let's not do
Her 69-year-old dad.
He's young.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was found in the suburban Denver home back in January of 2018, about a month after family and friends stopped hearing from him.
No kidding, like, duh.
Authorities say the guy's son told police his father had sent him a text message on December 7th, saying that he was being drugged.
Uh-oh.
An autopsy revealed asapromazine,
What is that?
an animal tranquilizer, in his system. So I don't even know if she may have just left him alive, buried him in cement.
No, we're going to say he got overdose.
Oh, my God. Dana Jennings told investigators she poured the concrete into the crawl space where the remains were found. She's scheduled to be sentenced in August. At least this wasn't one of those abstract crimes. It was concrete. Wait. I got one more joke. On this.
What? Don't get the dog.
Well, no, because she was having, obviously, a lot of trouble with her father. And they were very far apart. It's nice that at the end, they cemented their relationship.
Now, I don't
Yes,
know,
indeed.
I don't know why this is the picture on the card, but you
Okay.
have to use those words. Show them the
Oh,
cover.
my gosh.
I don't
It's like a
know.
hot dog?
It's a hot dog running, and I don't know what a hot dog has to do with running.
It might give you the runs, depending on what part of the pig it's made
nothing
from.
to do with running.
So anyway, if you were watching earlier in the show, Joyce got this pack of rhymey cards. Sorry about the earthquake there. See, rhyming, and I guess the game is I now have to make up
It's to make
lines
children think.
that rhyme with run while I tell about this woman, Dana
I guess you could also make stories. I never read the instructions.
Dana Jennings. But here are all the words, or some of the words that I try and have to use that rhyme with run in talking about this story. Oh dear God. Well, it certainly did.
Oh, you're supposed to do a show and say, what rhymes with B? And then children people say it. And then,
Oh, they try and get all the words on the card?
I don't know. I guess what else rhymes? It's like torture. It's like torturing a child to get rhyming.
Well, now I'm
tell
committed.
the story about Dana killing her dad with the tranquilizer.
Well, obviously they weren't having fun.
Yes, but tell it like a story.
And when she lifted him, he weighed a ton.
Yes.
Thank God she didn't kill a bunch of people, only one.
Yes.
And when she gave him all those drugs,
Yes.
It did stun
Yes.
him. Sorry, I couldn't land on that last line. When she was mixing the concrete, the machine spun.
Oh, God.
Her neighbors smelled under her house and began to shun her. Let's see. But eventually, all crime sees the light of the sun.
Oh, I was going to say she didn't bury him. She buried him inside, not in the sun.
In the sun, that's right. She thought she had won.
Yes.
But
just like Agatha Christie's show, and then there
were none.
Yeah.
But the police came, and when they were done,
Yes.
they found him encased like a hot dog in a bun.
Oh, that's where the bun comes from. Yes.
And when I made that cement joke, it was a fun. I did it. Go, David. Go, David. Woo!
That hurt.
And this is why we're better than 750,000 other podcasts on the air that you can watch, ladies and gentlemen. But that was our modern crime.
The dog is sad without the Torah.
Are you ready for another old time, dear?
Yes.
Got one or
What
two
are you
more.
looking for?
Whoa, 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 whoa,
What
whoa!
is it?
Chicken alert!
Hold on.
Chicken alert! Hurry, bring a chicken. Yes, yes. Hold that
I
cock
have
in
the
your
twins,
hand.
I have the twins.
Okay, the chicken twins. Chicken alert! Chicken alert! Let's talk about chickens, ladies and gentlemen. From Greeley Old Times.
Yeah, I wanna
Yeah,
get-
keep them up there. I'll
get
I'll
there.
read. Greeley's Balcom Seed Company is selling chicken feed at 25 pounds per dollar.
I don't know how to do this. Okay, hold on.
They're also selling
Okay. I'm David looking up.
why. Let's see how to put this. They're also selling charcoal
Go in
to
closer.
leave
Go in
where
closer.
where the hens can get it.
Go in closer.
Why would
Go
they
in
be?
closer. Go
Okay.
closer.
Okay, what are you trying to do?
I'm trying to get the
Get me
chickens.
this way. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Why would they be selling charcoal for the chickens? And ow!
I don't know to clean their bowels.
It's actually good for them. It keeps away. I'm glad that's my deaf ear. Yeah. Believe it or not, it keeps away hot weather diseases.
Oh, good.
And I would say they can also get some used to the idea of being on hibachi. But there you go.
Oh, wow.
Now let's go elsewhere. Yeah, I love this. This is kind of cool. You who eat your mescaline lettuce, you should especially appreciate this. This is a story that just happened this week. There's Christian book distributors, which are a distributor of items.
Oh, wait, hold on. I've got some
Yeah,
Christian
Rabbi Sol knows nothing about them.
There you go.
But they sell Christian books and implements and items and probably sacristy things. It's sort of the opposite of this. And we'll get to these soon. These will be for a future story time. But Christian Book Distributors has had to change its name.
Maybe we can get a Christian book.
In fact, they're changing their name to Christian Book, not Christian Book Distributors.
Why not
Because
distributors?
they were using very often their initials, CBD.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
So what would happen was, whenever they would advertise or anything, whenever they would come up in a search engine on Google, suddenly when people Googled CBD, they would come up and they'd start getting a million phone calls and emails saying, hey, where can we get CBD?
Oh,
And they were not looking for the Book of Matthew.
That's very sad.
Exactly. So no longer will
Maybe
they use those
should make
initials.
some Christian CBD and they could double time it.
Well, the company was formed in Massachusetts back in 1978 and is the world's biggest seller of Christian products, said CBD CEO Ray Hendrickson. Quote, a person may call up and say, hey, I'm looking for my order. And we'll say, well, what'd you order? Oh, I ordered gummies. You don't have the right company.
Is that the gummies of Moses?
Yeah.
Did you order the Old Testament gummies or the New Testament gummies?
What they really should do is have gummy crucifixes and like special Christian candies with CBD oil in them. They would corner both markets.
Yes.
You know? Because I'm sure maybe there's Jewish companies that make those little citron etrog candies. I know. But if you infuse them with CBD, no one would mind that they taste so horrible. Anyway, we got one more story, one more old time. Excuse me. In Greeley Crab's Old Times on this Saturday. Are you ready, babe? Oh, huh. Since we're talking about the air conditioning and all that, the new cooling. I don't know if we were. Well, turning it on and off for noise. The new cooling system is complete at the Rex Theater in Greeley, Colorado. Now, air coming into... We'll show that as soon as that. Air coming into the building. All right, let's show him. Let's show. This is Rabbi Sol. He doesn't have much luck converting humans. But he does do bar mitzvahs. Yeah.
It's the vacant stare.
Yeah, that's our boy. Anywho, okay, last item for Greeley Old Times for this Saturday. Rex Theater, the live theater in Greeley, Colorado, back 100 years ago. Air coming into the building will now be blown through a water shower and cooled before it enters the building.
Nice.
Or it enters the theater section of the building. Temperatures should raise no higher than 70 degrees.
Ooh, that's what they were saying.
Yeah.
So for everybody in New York, they were saying that to prevent a blackout, we should keep every air conditioner at 70. Like 70 would prevent
And not cooler than that.
usage.
Yeah. I know I'm getting old because I'm generally fine most of the day with this puppy at 70 or 71. Whereas 20 years ago, it would be like 66.
That's when you have the hormonals.
Yeah, right? I don't get it. How am I not? What has happened to me? I've always loved the cool.
It's because you're sitting on your arse. You're not doing much physical activity.
That could be. But even in this hot weather,
You're
I've
not
been walking
doing
outside.
aerobics. You're not really doing, you're just like, you're not doing anything intensively active.
No, but I remember you were coming home from somewhere and I was walking with you and you were like, oh, I'm dying. I need water. And I'm like, it's not so bad. And I think I must be getting old. Maybe. I mean, I said, when you're in the shade, it's pleasant. and me, of all people, because for me, fluorescent lights and air conditioning were the great modern appurtenances of life. And here I am, and I'm like, yeah, I'm all right. I'm alive. I'm good. And ladies and gentlemen, that was Greeley Crimes and Old Times for this Saturday, July 20th, 2019.
Mr. Horace Greeley was no fool. I'm sure that you'll agree with me that Greeley was no fool.
What he is getting at is that Mr. Greeley was no fool.
Yippee-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi-yi-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi.
Here we are. It is almost noon Eastern Time here in the Daverhood for the Dave's Gone By program. It's our 705th episode of the show. We've been calling it HUFFPOW in honor of our guest, Cady Huffman. Are we done? Because we're at the 3-hour mark. Just about. Are we finished? Do we have anything more to do? Yes, we do. We still have our quiz. So hopefully Cynthia is still with us and she's watching and you can play against her. She is.
She's the law.
Yeah.
She's the law.
And our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. And we'll do a couple more pages of Why Fish Fart. All of that on our 705th episode of Dave's Gone By with me, Dave Lefkowitz, my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, and of course all of you tuning in, Lynn and Tony, Wayne, Deborah, Lane, Diane, Dennis, and Kurt. Yeah, there's a Wayne. We have a Wayne.
Wayne?
No. Wayne. Like mail name, Wayne. So, hon, don't go away because we have still our quiz to do. And this has been fun. It's a relatively recent addition now to the program because I like to change things up now and then. This is our quiz. We call it Today, Yesterday. Well, today is July.
I can't play this. Where's my phone?
Your phone. Oh, you're going to check. You're going to look everything up? Okay, she cheats. Just don't share your cheating answers until we're ready. But here's, Cynthia's with us. It's really Jeff and Cynthia. That's right. Her husband, Jeff, is with her. So thank you for bringing a new person into the Daverhood. Her husband, Cynthia's husband, Jeff. So welcome to both of you. Welcome to everybody who's watching. Get other people to watch. That's the idea. And to share this program with them every Saturday. So today, yesterday, is a quiz. And it's all about literally today's date, July 20th. Today's 2019. But last year was July 20th, 2018. And then there was a July 20th, 2017, going all the way back, ad infinitum, even before they had calendars. But we like to ask a few questions about stuff that happened on this date in history. And then your goal is to figure out, hey, what is the answer?
Hey, what's the answer?
A couple of things I ask you, just on the honor system. Don't go Googling. Don't go Wikipediaing in. Try and see.
I'm not like Cynthia and Jeff. I need help.
It's a trivia quiz. I mean, if you were sitting around playing Trivial Pursuit, you wouldn't.
Yes, most people would cheat.
No, they wouldn't. Nobody cheats in Trivial.
Ask for the answer.
Well, that's that chess player guy. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah.
This chess player got disqualified a week ago because he literally went to the bathroom, was sitting on a toilet, and they had a camera in the bathroom. I have questions about that.
Yeah.
But then they caught him checking his cell phone, checking chess moves. But so try not to do that if you're playing along. You're welcome to if you're in the watch party, type and your friends can see and you can go against each other who gets the answer first. Or if you're not in the watch party, if you're just watching right here, we'd love to see you all chiming in and who gets the answer first. Generally, it's Cynthia. She's the real winner here.
He said it's not even her, it's her hubby.
Or maybe it's Jeff. Getting the answers to these trivia questions. Some of them are tough. Some of them are easy. We try and mix them up in a Jeopardy-esque way. Are you ready? Are you ready, Ben?
What's today's date? Wait, 1 second, I gotta look this up.
Oh my gosh, Cynthia says her husband has been banned from playing Trivial Pursuit, not because he cheats, but because he just gets too many answers right. And he makes it, unpleasant for everybody else to be with know-it-all.
Go on Jeopardy?
I know, right? Well, so anyway, is your phone ready? Are you ready to play along?
Ready, yeah. Okay.
July 20th in history, today, yesterday.
Okay.
Well, before you go, try and see if you can answer first.
I can, I'm an idiot.
Okay. On this date, in 1944, there's a clue right there.
Oh.
Klaus von Stauffenberg
God.
tried unsuccessfully to change the course of history. What did he do? Dun, dun, dun,
It says Teamster strike.
Well, no, that's I got my.
Oh.
Don't say it. Don't say it. So that's the clue.
Say that it goes along with the producers.
It does. It does. That's another clue right there.
Use this
If you're
one.
thinking in terms of the producers, well, I do a countdown of like
okay.
5, 4, 3,
I'm
2, 1.
sorry.
Yeah, but
How could I be so stupid?
so I'll give you another few seconds because I know this goes out on kind of a videotape delay.
Videotape delay.
To think of the answer to this question on Dave's Gone By, where it is, by the way, 12:01 in the afternoon. Okay, we have one answer so far,
What is it?
probably from Jeff, but Cynthia's the relay person. I'm going to give people another 10 seconds. I mean, sometimes Cynthia beats people.
She beats people?
Well, yeah, it's painful with the answer. So don't necessarily look at the crawl of messages,
Cynthia beats people.
and we don't want to hear the answer yet. But again, it was 1944. Klaus von Stauffenberg tried, failed to change the course of history. What did he do?
That's amazing.
I'm going to give it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 on this. Dum 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 da da dum. That's right. Klaus von Stauffenberg tried to kill Hitler. He walked into Hitler's bunker because it was already towards the end of the war at that point, with a suitcase with a bomb in it. The bomb did go off and it killed several officers, but Hitler apparently, he was positioned by a table near the leg, and the table saved him. Von Stauffenberg was caught and executed the next day.
Tried to shoot him?
Oh, no, with the bomb. The bomb went off. The bomb went boom.
Yes, I remember that from school.
But instead of the bomb hitting Hitler, he was sort of behind a desk that saved him. Von Stauffenberg ran away, but they found him the next day and summarily executed him. So, yeah, I mean, he's not exactly this great big hero because he was anti-Semitic and a Nazi too for a while. He just didn't want his kind of like, you know, how do I
Like
put
Mean
this?
Girls, he wanted to kill his competition.
Yeah, he liked the organization as a whole.
He didn't like the
He just didn't like the leader. Yeah, exactly.
Sad.
So anyway, we got 1 down, 9 to go in our Today, Yesterday quiz. Are you ready for question number 2?
Yes.
Here we go. On July 20th, 1949, these two countries signed an armistice ending 19 months of conflict.
I believe it's called a truce.
A truce. Well, yeah, they signed a truce. These two countries in
And they're not in
1949.
conflict
That's a clue. Yeah. And by the way, Cynthia is correct. Yeah. Well, about the previous one. She got it first, or Jeff did. So, what happened? 1949. What two countries signed a truce agreement?
Aren't you hungry?
Yes. I'm in the middle of a show, and I'll eat when the show is done.
Want some lettuce?
No, Joyce wants to make a peanut butter sandwich. I'm like, yeah, let me eat a peanut butter sandwich while I'm on the air trying to speak.
We don't have bread because we couldn't get the TJ.
So, all right, I'm going to give a little hint. The answer from Cynthia, we have one. I'm not going to name it yet. I will give a clue that Rabbi Sol would know quite a bit about this, more than I would. What two countries signed the truce?
I know. Is it Brooklyn and Queens?
No. It's not even Brooklyn and drag queens.
Is it the Bronx? The Bronx?
All right, I'm going to give a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And no, we did have one answer that was India and Pakistan, and that is not correct.
Oh, that's close, though.
No, it is kind of close since it involves things that were colonized and partitioned and stuff. But no, I'm talking about Israel and Syria, because they were fighting since the 1948 War of Independence. And so, in 1949, on July 20th, they signed a truce. So that's the answer. Yeah, no, Cynthia did get it about Israel and question mark.
She's close. Yeah.
Israel was fighting with question marks and Mysterians for a while.
I think they did with asterisks.
And everybody shed 96 tears about it. But
Little
asterisks. Yes, they did. Time for our next question in our Today, Yesterday quiz. On July 20th, 1881. 1881. This Lakota Indian.
1881?
Or I should say Native American, or I should say First Nations person.
Wow, it's not in the Wikipedia. Hold on.
Okay. July 20th, 1881, this Indian who had relentlessly stood up to General Custer and the American settlers.
Say it again. What day is it?
July 20th, today, back in 1881, he relentlessly stood up to both General Custer and American settlers, he finally surrendered and signed a treaty. It's kind of a big treaty day. Who was this Indian
what's
person?
your attention to? I'm looking. I think it was Red Bull.
Actually, on some level,
Oh,
you're almost right.
I know. If he was relaxing, I would be right.
There you go. So who was it? And I'll give you more of a bit of a clue. He became a featured attraction with Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. But American authorities, well, I'll give you the rest of the thing. But we have an answer there.
Is it right?
I'm going to play the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the answer is not Red Bull, but Singing Bull. And I sit here and do Bull for 3.5 hours every week, ladies and gentlemen. So, okay. So Singing Bull, after the Buffalo Bill years, they figured he'd just settle down. But what happened was American authorities were fearing the ghost dance, which was kind of a rebel thing. And so 9 years later, after he retired, they sent Indian police to arrest him. When they came, things somehow magically became chaotic, and Singing Bull got shot in the chest.
Oh, God.
And died. So, yeah, the answer was Singing Bull, who signed
He was
the treaty.
assassinated. That's
Yes, he
murder.
was. Essentially, it was.
Murder.
Yeah. Anyway, that was in 1881 on this date, July 20th.
That's terrible.
Let's do
That's so depressing.
let's do a happier one.
Yes.
Okay. On July 20th, everybody's going to get this one. On July 20th, 1969,
Ooh.
in a rather unusual place,
Lucky.
Michael Collins sat and metaphorically held down the fort while 2 other men did what? So on this date, 50 years ago, hint, hint, Michael Collins was watching.
They said he drank coffee. In the little blip we saw on Google, he said he drank coffee.
He was drinking coffee.
And he said, I was alone, but not lonely.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's sweet. Michael Collins, not the Irish
He
Republican
was
person.
watching porn, probably.
He probably was. He was watching. I think we all know this one. I'm going to go quick on this one. Ding, 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 ding. And I think we know that the people he was watching were Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walking on the moon 20
Yes,
years
he
ago,
said that
50 years ago
He said
today.
they planted the thing for all of mankind and that man should live in peace. What about women?
There you go. If they were woke.
Anachronistic language for all human beings.
See, we think of them as so brave and such heroic, and now it's like, oh, well, they didn't mention women. So therefore, they didn't mention the LGBT community.
Oh, here he goes again. Focus. Focus.
We know the man. They said the man in the moon could have been a transgender. Were there
They didn't
eyelashes?
even talk about the gerbils.
They could have been a transitioning moon.
What
It could have
about
been between.
gerbils? What about gerbils?
That's right. That's right. So they were not woke.
What about animal kind? We're all animals.
Well, but it is pretty funny that when you watch, I watched Apollo 11, the documentary movie about it, and you see the control room, and it's white man after white man after white man with buzz cut
And you know
hair.
what they said? They said
What?
their computer on the rocket and on the launching thing
Yeah.
was like less than a laptop now.
Oh yeah,
Right? It was amazing.
that's it. They did all this. They got men to the moon and back
Yes.
on something that was less than what this laptop can do. It shows you how far down society has slid.
Yes.
That now I do this, and we haven't even been to Mars
But
yet.
you never showed you moon, so that's good.
Oh, I may do that on the 1,000th episode. Yes. Will I still have my dimple? I don't know.
Oh, I hope so.
I hope so too.
With no cottage cheese.
Okay, here we go.
The dog is crazy.
So let's do a little more of our story time. Excuse me. All right, today, yesterday quiz on Dave's
Are you
Gunlight.
going to do why fish fart in your dictionary? Or
Yep.
It's too late.
No dictionary, but
It's
we'll
already
do.
12:10.
I know. We'll do. Get for this. I've got the Limerick and Whitefish Fart
Okay.
and Friends of the Daverhood. So,
Okay.
July 20th, 1923 was a very bad day for this
Bad day?
Mexican revolutionary and his
Uh-oh.
entourage.
Uh-oh. Is this his name?
Before you even Google it,
Does
try
his name
guessing.
mean something else?
No. Oh, hold on one moment.
Staccato?
But I'm going to mention him, in fact. This Mexican revolutionary and his entourage, it was a bad day for him because they were assassinated in the town of Parral, where this rebel had a summer hacienda. Most famously, I'm giving you a big clue here.
What day was it?
Today, July 20th,
No.
1923, this revolutionary had joined forces with Emiliano Zapata
Woo!
in struggles
Zappy.
against the government,
Zappy.
and then he battled American General John Pershing
It doesn't
over
say
the
in
Mexican
Wikipedia,
border.
So, it won't say.
So if you think we have border troubles now, this guy had him. And by the way, we do have a correct answer here. You were on the right track, but it's the guy who was with Zapata for part of his thing, for part of the
It wouldn't
rebellion.
have been Che. Che would have been
No, that's
Tulane, yeah.
And Che, wasn't the artist? Where was Che?
Yeah, well,
It was Cuba.
who else?
No, this is Mexico. There is a restaurant chain named after him.
Oh, that's disturbing.
I know, right?
I don't know.
Because he's the ultimate outlaw, and apparently he was a really bad guy. He would rape women, he'd kill women. I mean, he was, and yet he's apparently played himself in silent movies. We'll do the answer. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I actually counted up accidentally. But here's the answer is, Cynthia and Jeff, you are correct, Pancho Villa. Pancho Villa. So he fought the Mexican government. He
That's
actually
awkward.
deposed Huerta. And he ended up fighting the Americans over the border with New Mexico. So Pancho Villa was assassinated today, back in 1923.
God.
A few years later, in 1938, born today, July 20th,
Born in the USA.
in San Francisco, this person was born
Oh, it doesn't say.
to immigrant parents. Her name, Natalia Zakharenko, but under her stage name, she appeared in such
Oh,
movies.
Britney Spears.
Yes. She was in Rebel Without a Cause, Splendor in the Grass. Here's a giveaway for our theater people. Gypsy, Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice. Her last film project was Brainstorm in 1981, but she died before she could complete it. Who is this actress?
Oh, I know who it is.
And not just Natalia Zakharova.
I know who it is.
Okay, don't say it yet. Let's give.
Knock on.
Very good. And Cynthia and Jeff, they have an answer too. Who was this actress from Bob and Carol and Ted and
She
Alice
didn't do well on boats.
and Gypsy? She did not.
Mm-mm.
Especially not when Christopher Walken and her husband, Robert Wagner, were on the boat with her.
Oh, that gives it away.
She and he were fighting, apparently, allegedly. Nobody has any real
Yeah, but I
idea.
mean, like, if you're, like, how are you dying and falling off the boat when people are on the boat with you? And it wasn't during the day?
Must have been.
I could see at night, like at night when people are sleeping, maybe
Yeah.
you've gone out. But during the day, how do you fall off a boat and die when no one sees you?
Because somebody's taking the oar and going, you know, and oar being the word that we were rhyming before, but yeah. And we are, of course, talking about Natalie Wood. And when it comes to swimming, Natalie wouldn't. But yeah, she was born. I'm sorry?
Do they ever solve her death?
No. In fact, what happened was just a year ago.
She has kids.
Yeah, like, did she really? But Robert Wagner was renamed as a person of interest in the case.
Whoa.
So that was the thing. It was, yeah. So
That's a damn cold case, right?
indeed. Did you know? I read this on Wiki. But did you know that she turned down? Natalie Wood turned down the Faye Dunaway part in Bonnie and Clyde, because she wanted to be near her analyst.
God bless her. A good analyst is hard to find. Listen, I can see it.
Then she'd gotten Cady Huffman. She'd be like, I can do it.
She found somebody on her health plan. She's like, I'm not moving.
Speaking of famous actresses, but this is tangentially connected. Born July 20th, 1945 in Los Angeles. This singer-songwriter sounded like a female Rod Stewart.
Bonnie Raitt?
No, that's a good guess. But don't guess until we give people a chance
I know
to
it's not right because I
chime in.
don't know anything.
Female
Oh, I know who it is.
singer-songwriter,
All the boys think she's a spy.
bingo. She sounded like a female Rod Stewart. She heard that all the time. She actually ended up doing a duet with Rod Stewart in later years. She hit it big with a song co-written by Jackie
They
DeShannon
could call it furry pants.
called, speaking of actresses, Betty Davis Eyes.
All the boys
Who was born July 20th, 1945?
Tell them it's not Angela Lansbury.
It wasn't Angela Lansbury, no.
The band.
And it wasn't Betty Davis, but this woman popularized a song about Betty Davis called Betty Davis Eyes with her raspy voice. Do you remember the name? This goes back to really, I'm sure, tip of your tongue kind of thing. I'm sure you're thinking like, oh, I can picture the video, I can picture her, but can you name her? Well, she actually had a couple of small hits before that song became an era-defining tune. Yeah, but I couldn't tell you what they were. But yeah, she had some hits, but then boom. I'm not getting any answers, and because it's a tough one. If you don't remember it,
It's a tough one.
all right, we're going to count it down. I'm not making any real musical notes here.
First of all, you're holding the wrong end of the clanger. Here's the clanger.
Oh, that made me lie. Here we go. Better.
There you go.
And finally, we have an answer just in time.
Oh!
The answer to the trivia question on this one on Today Yesterday is Kim Carnes. Kim Carnes. Or for Spanish, Kim Carnes. What?
Carnes?
No, I'm just kidding with
You
that
think
one.
that's a real name, Kim Carnes?
Oh, I wouldn't know. But this is kind of interesting, and almost surprises me. Guess who was a really, really big fan of the song Betty Davis Eyes?
Betty Davis.
Betty Davis!
Of course.
She was. No, she really liked the song.
Because it's about her and she's a narcissist.
And Kim Carnes actually visited Betty Davis several times. They became friends
That's nice.
before Betty Davis died. So that's really, really cool.
That is good.
All right, we have a couple more questions in our Yesterday segment here on Dave's Gone By. Are you ready for the next question, Babe, and everybody at home?
I'm ready.
Here we go, and in your offices
I'm
and
coming
wherever
back,
else.
Frankie Kugel. Hold on, Frankie Kugel.
On July 20th, 1973, don't look this one up. I'll bet you'll get it. I won't. This Asian actor who played Kato in both The Green Hornet and TV's Batman died from an allergic reaction to a headache pill.
Oh.
Who died in
no,
1973?
I'm thinking of the guy, Bruce Lee's son.
Mhm.
Bruce Lee's son.
Died back in 1973.
Bruce Lee's son? Brandon Lee? No.
Mhm.
No.
Who is this person who played
I
Kato?
don't know Kato. I don't watch TV.
Not Kato Kalin, but the original Kato
I don't
in the
know.
Green Hornet or
He
Green Lantern?
died? He died?
Yeah, this was the day he died. He had a headache, he took a pill, and the pill had something in it that disagreed with him terribly, got seizures, and he died. And cut down truly in his prime.
That's not good. I
And the
don't know.
answer is, we do have an answer from Cynthia and Jeff,
What is it?
and we actually had it kind of from you, almost.
What is it?
The answer is, yeah, Bruce Lee.
Oh.
Bruce Lee himself died.
I didn't know that. I thought he died at home. I didn't think he died of a...
Yeah, no, he was a
Didn't his
perfectly
son
great
die
shape.
in a
Yeah, that
movie
was
set?
many years later.
No, I know, but that's true too, right?
Right. But Bruce Lee did die on this date in 1973. Of course, he didn't make that many films. He did Way of the Dragon and Enter the Dragon and a couple of things that were cut together after he passed. But I never realized he did a lot of TV. He was on like a couple of sitcoms for an episode or two. He was trying to be a real Hollywood star. We don't think of him that way. We think of him as a real Yakuza Japanese kind of thing. Except was he
Yakuza's a
Chinese?
gang.
Right. Was he
Yakuza's
Japanese
a
or Chinese?
gang.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but there's a whole genre of noir Japanese movies about the Yakuza, about the Mafia
Really?
in Japan. Yeah, of course. There's a whole genre of film.
I don't know that.
But anyway, if you got Bruce Lee, you got it right. So, yay. And welcome to Brian, joining us 3 hours and 20 minutes into the show. Stay with us. We still have more. 2 more questions in our Today, Yesterday segment here on Dave's Gone By. July 20th. Happy birthday today to a very grim writer, born July 20th, 1933. He's still alive.
Stephen King.
Oh, by the way, Kim Carnes is still alive as well.
Stephen King.
It's not Stephen King. Born July 20th, 1933.
What happened to him?
He has 10 novels to his name, including, I hope this isn't too much of a giveaway, but All the Pretty Horses, The Road, for which he won the Pulitzer Prize, and No Country for Old Men,
Oh,
which
I
of course was
think
made
it's-
into a movie.
I think it's Hugh Hefner.
No, it's not Hugh Hefner.
It's Hugh Hefner.
This fellow was born July 20th, 1933. This author, very acclaimed writer, a Pulitzer Prize-winning writer, still with us. Who is this 85-year-old person? Give you another couple of, another few seconds to answer this quiz question. Right, it's very, Cynthia has an answer for us.
When?
It is, I will say this, not the correct answer.
Give me the time. 19.
Born today, 1933.
Sure.
I'm as sure as Wikipedia and these other websites get.
Oh, I know what it is.
So remember, the author of No Country for Old Men, Pulitzer winner for The Road. Let's give a countdown.
He would have done Trials, right? Red Scare.
Yes, that's a. Yeah. If you're looking for a clue, it would have been The Red Scare, because some of his books are kind of scary. If you've ever seen the movie No Country for Old Men, that will creep you out. But I'm talking about Cormac McCarthy. Cormac McCarthy, born on this date 85 years ago. Okay, so Cynthia and Jeff didn't get that one. I think you guys are like 7 of 9 so far, and if you like Star Trek, you didn't like 7 of 9. But yes, so George's going to pinch me. Anywho, one last question in our yesterday quiz. Born July 20th, the year I was born, 1964.
He was a lawyer.
Cormac McCarthy? Oh, cool. I guess that's where he got this whole thing. But are you ready for our last one? And you'll get this one, Dave. Don't look this one up. This environmentalist and zoo owner still appears on TV with her children, who have the same affinity for animals as her late husband. Who are we talking about? I'll read it again.
I didn't get it.
Born July 20th, 1964. So she's about my age. This environmentalist and zoo owner
I don't know.
still appears on TV with her children.
I know who it is.
Who
Yay, matey!
Yeah.
Put another Barbie on the Barbie. Yeah.
Put another Barbie on a Barbie. That's
What are we
sick.
calling it? I don't know.
Who have the same, and the kids have the same affinity for animals as her late husband did, who was born on this date. And what's the first name? We have because we're doing it like Jeopardy. They're getting the last name.
Oh, dun 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 dun.
So yeah.
Dun, dun.
Well, no. Well, you've named the dead husband, Cynthia. So I'm going to give you a few more seconds to name the person that we're talking about, because he was not born on this date. She was. So who is this person who appears on TV with her kids and so forth, and is doing the stewardship of his career and the zoos and things that they run? Do you remember her name? I'm going to give you a couple more seconds, and then I'll do a ding, bang, ding, bong.
What?
Brilliant!
What?
Brilliant! I will accept that answer.
What is it? I can't.
That is wonderful. Thank you, Cynthia. You made my day. Oh,
What is it?
I'm asking. So,
Oh, I know what they did. They did Mrs.
right! So, they said Steve Irwin, who, of course, is the guy we're talking about who created this whole franchise, this whole thing. Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, the guy who was killed by a stingray. But I wasn't looking for Steve Irwin. He wasn't born today. His wife was. And so Cynthia and Steve and Jeff wrote in Irwin. And I'm like, that would work on Jeopardy, but I want the last name. Oh, I'm sorry, I need, yes, we know it's Irwin, but it's not Steve. We need the wife. What's her name?
Oh, that's so funny.
And they wrote in Mrs.
But it's like the cloth you wear at the beach.
Terry.
Yeah.
Terry Irwin was born today. She is alive and well, and she's working with her kids on TV. So, yeah, kind of cool stuff. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is our yesterday segment for today, July 20th, 2019. Hope you all did pretty well. I don't know if anybody can do as well as Jeff and Cynthia, but even they missed a couple.
They're the power couple.
They are indeed. They got the power! Woo, baby! They got the power!
Don't ever sing that again. Don't ever sing that again.
Don't ever sing anything again. I think we need. So, ladies and gentlemen, we still have a bit more to do of Dave's Gone By, and I thank so many of you have been tuned in since 9 o'clock this morning.
Oh my God.
We're still doing more. And by the way, I thank you guys. I also thank the folks here at Hewlett Minuteman Press, the copy kings of Broadway in Hewlett, Long Island. It's a franchise. And they are, I mean, there are tons of Minutemans all over the place. But if you go to the Hewlett Minuteman, you get 10% off any job, big or small, if you tell them Dave sent you. So if you come in there with like a two-sided color copy, it would be a certain amount, but cheaper, because you mentioned me. Or single-sided black and white copies, or whole big presentations and folders and bound and spiral bound. They can do it. They can put your name or silk screen your logo on uniforms, on shirts, on sweaters. They can put your company logo on calendars and golf balls and sporting implements. They can make banners and flyers. They do wedding invitations. As a matter of fact, you know what? We had Cady Huffman on the program earlier in the show. Let's do H. These are just the things that Hewlett Minuteman Press does for the letter H. Those include...
H is for aging. They will do some huffing.
Wow. Halftones.
Ooh.
Hebrew New Year cards. Yeah, seriously, they do those. I can't read this.
Okay.
High speed. Go to the H's. Read,
the
yeah,
H.
tell us. Yeah.
They do historic newspapers.
Ooh.
High speed duplicating. They will punch your hole.
I beg.
They do holiday cards and invitation and hot stamping.
Whoa! Hot stamping, ladies and gentlemen. Hot stamping.
And they'll also stamp a gerbil.
Oh, will they? Will they?
They'll do gerbil hopping.
Yeah, or in the Hebrew way, herbling is what they call it. I don't even know what that means. But yeah, they do fine quality work, and it's been owned and operated by the Toron family since 1975. I deal with Yvonne there and Aldina. They're wonderful.
You have also the young one who brings your stuff to the printer.
I don't know her name, but she's great. They're all great. And they're open 5 days a week during the summer.
Retiring mailman says.
Yeah, no, they are. They're really nice. And they're open 8:30 to 5:30 Monday through Friday. Contact them 516-569-5577. Area code 516-569-5577. Minuteman. They are the copy kings of Hewlett. Well, we still have a bit more to do here on the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the Stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz, my darling and wonderful wife, Joyce. It is our 705th episode. We've been calling it HUFFPOW because of our friend Cady Huffman.
She was really wonderful. What a wonderful woman. Yeah.
Absolutely delightful.
Yeah.
So, Cady Huffman on the show, but we have more. We still have a bit more to do. So I'm going to let you choose of the three things that we...
I don't have any bread. We need food.
Well, I think we'll go later, or just have some nuts, so I can't open the door.
How can we go to bread? I got no food.
Joyce is sitting here naked, ladies, which is keeping me awake for the show.
No, I'm in my house.
Shall we do the story time first or the limerick first?
Do the story time.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, one thing that we've begun to do about 2 or 3 years ago was I had brought our car, our Subaru, into a gas station, well, a service station more like it, in Colorado to have its brakes done. And when I was there, I was poking through the magazines and newspapers they had available for people who were waiting for their cars to be fixed to read. And sure, they had the local paper and the USA Today, and they had children's books because parents bring their children, and they're waiting an hour for a car to be up on the lift and down, and kids get so bored. So they had books and things in the waiting room. One of them was A Cow for Hansel. And we ended up reading that book cover to cover. I haven't done anything that long or involved ever since, but I do.
One about the child who cried all the time. That was all.
No, yeah, and that was just one chapter. It was going on and on. I was reading Mrs. Pigglewiggle.
Yeah. Crying and crying.
So we're having much more fun with this one. Why
Look,
fish?
The fish is embarrassed.
Fart.
The fish is embarrassed.
Well, look at the bubbles. So notice.
Oh, that's his fart. Oh, that's disgusting.
Isn't it?
That's disgusting.
He's like Larva. His
Do fish really fart?
Well, apparently. And why else would they name the book that? They've got to. So let's get into this segment, which we call Story Time.
Tell me a story, tell me a story, tell me a story, remember what you said. You promised me, you said you would, you gotta give in, so I'll be good. Tell me a story, then I'll go to bed.
I know it doesn't really fit in the parameters of
I'm
a
gonna
story.
give you a chapter.
Well, it's more of a story than the book that Rabbi Sol did during the holidays. You know, just think, if you don't want to hear this book, folks, be happy that you're not here on the days when we were trying to read this book cover to cover.
Here, this is,
You know what I'm
this is
saying?
the one. Read this
But no,
chapter.
no.
Read chapter 2, Disgusting Duties.
Really? Oh, no, I won't get for because I want to do. If I start jumping around, I won't remember where I'm at.
But it's not a story. It's just different chapters of information.
Right, but check out, and I already made a promise of what we were going to do today in this. Why?
Let me see if I open the door. What'll happen to the mazel tov?
All right, let's see. We're going to turn it into May. Oh, no. I'm the marvelous Mr. Mazel. There we go.
Do you want some chips?
No, I can't eat while I'm on the air. You go get some nuts or something. Anyway, we continue with Why Fish Fart by Francesca Gould. Gross but true things you'll wish you didn't know. Now, last time we talked about such things as fugu and why it has just enough poison to numb your lips but won't kill you if it's properly prepared. Bird's nest soup, which you may have seen in Asian restaurants, is actually made from bird saliva.
Ugh.
And that you can eat tarantulas.
Why do you get bird saliva?
And unfortunately, Cynthia is saying that she and Jeff need to run because we're going pretty late here in the Daverhood. Cynthia, remember, if you miss part of the show, after it's over, you can scroll back down on Facebook. The video will be there. And you have all the archives at davesgoneby.com, so you can catch the last 20 minutes, last half hour, anytime this week. And you can have some shana meat. Mama meat?
It's coated wafer enchilada.
They're wafers, because I'm a wafering stranger. Anyway, okay, we're back to Why Fish Fart, ladies and gentlemen. And hey, have you ever asked yourself, why is some coffee made from poop? Yes, indeed.
Look, your mazel got straight.
Yeah, let's do it.
Straight. You want a nut? You don't want a
I
nut?
know, I don't want to eat while I'm doing this. The world's most expensive coffee is, and I've heard of this actually, an Indonesian specialty called Kopi Luwak. I love me some good Kopi Luwak in the morning, which is believed to be the best in the world and is very popular in Japan and America. Bizarrely, this coffee is made from beans that have been eaten and then excreted by the common palm civet. I'm not trying to say. The palm civet is a small bobcat-like mammal that lives in a certain rainforest region of Indonesia. The palm civet's main diet consists of berries, insects, and other small mammals, but it also enjoys eating coffee beans. But not just any old coffee beans, by the way. The fussy civet chooses only the reddest and ripest beans. They then pass almost unchanged through the palm civet's digestive system.
Why does it eat it if it can't chew it?
Why do we eat corn? Why do we, other stuff that just, why do people drink shots of vodka and don't even taste it? It just goes, gulp, it's just a thing. Let's see. But it goes right through the digestive system and before being pooped out and then harvested. Well, I know, that's the point. It's gross things kids and me really love to hear. And I like this little bit of editorial comment here.
Yeah.
The beans pass through the civet's digestive system before being pooped out and then harvested by unfortunate plantation workers before being sold for ludicrous sums to wealthy coffee fanatics. Just 2 ounces, which is about 57 grams of Kopi Luwak coffee, which is enough to make only 1 cup, costs only $50. Making it is a very expensive way to start your day. But what makes Kopi Luwak taste so good? There seem to be 2 main possibilities. The exceptional flavor may result from the effect of the civet's digestive juices on the coffee beans,
So disgusting.
or these digestive juices may have no real effect, and the answer may simply lie in the civet's fantastical pickiness in selecting only the very ripest, reddest coffee beans, as opposed to just grabbing all the beans that are there. Isn't that interesting? I want some civet coffee now.
I have an idea.
What?
Why don't you just get somebody who can go, human being, who can use gloves and pick the ripest beans without the animal shatting them?
That takes all the fun out of it. It takes how much fun is it to exploit plantation workers, right? Making them pick through poo for less than minimum wage. I mean, come on, what is more fun and more American than that? Let me tell you.
You said it's in Brazil or where?
That is in Indonesia. Anyway, what is the world's, I'm going to ask you to guess because I don't know, what is the world's tastiest insect? What is the yummiest insect on earth? Is it someone, I think Cady Huffman mentioned grasshopper, or
Grasshopper?
Or she mentioned she's tried cricket, she's tried ants. For centuries, many cultures around the world have been eating all sorts of insects and bugs. The practice even has a fancy name, entomophagy, for like esophageal, I guess. In some respects, Entenmann's bugs, that's the best cake they make. In some respects, insects make quite a good meal. They're widely available, easy to cook, and highly nutritious. Caterpillars, for example, they're chock full of protein and iron. Bugs that are commonly munched around the world include flies, beetles, if Paul McCartney gets lucky, dragonflies, grasshoppers, cockroaches, butterflies. How would you eat? There's nothing on it. It's like probably like a little baby pretzel stick. Moths, mosquitoes, ants, and even bees and wasps. In fact, more than 1,000 species of edible insects exist. In Nigeria, people enjoy snacking on crickets. Check this out. Nigerians enjoy snacking on crickets that are disemboweled and then roasted over open coals.
How do you disembowel a cricket?
What a job that is. You have to be like a jeweler. You need one of those big eyepieces. It's like, where are they? Why bother? Why do you have to take the bowels out of a
Mine
cricket?
tastes better. Mine than get out the cricket.
Grasshoppers are also popular, and people working in the fields will often eat them raw. In China, a nice warm bowl of earthworm soup is believed to help treat fever. In Macau, I love that, Macau, you can buy a bag of fried beetles that look like cockroaches. And on the streets of Bangkok, in Thailand, fried grasshoppers are sold the same way. In fact, people in Thailand eat a wide variety of insects, including cicadas, locusts, mantises, deep-fried crickets, grasshoppers, usually fried, dung beetles, dung beetle rolls again, moth and butterfly pupae, wasp and bee larvae, termites in soup. I would eat termites. Would you? Giant water bugs steamed. Bamboo.
It's disgusting.
Bamboo borers. There are small grubs that are sometimes described on menus as fried little white babies. Fried little white babies, ladies and gentlemen, which are the baby borers. Weaver ants, which are eaten raw or, oh, this is when they're good, they're rubbed with salt, chili, or pepper. And they're eggs, which can be eaten as a paste. And even the revolting-sounding grilled tarantula. We talked about that last time. Meanwhile, almost through the chapter, we, in South America, tree worms and various stingless bees and wasps are eaten in Brazil. They're apparently known for their pleasant almondy taste. In Colombia, hormigo culona, or big-bottomed ants. Big bottoms. Talk about fire ants. They have got, anyway. They are also enjoyed for their nutty flavor. These winged ants are collected with large sweeping brooms, placed into boiling water, then taken out and dried on the grill. And in America, worker ants of this species are sometimes dipped into chocolate. One company in California makes products such as Cricket Lick It, a tasty sugar-free lollipop with, you guessed it, a real cricket in the center. I mean, do we need to come that far from the Tootsie Roll? Do we, honestly? Or perhaps you prefer the scorpion sucker, which comes in and...
Why would you do that? Isn't it poison?
Well, if it stings you, yeah, but if it's prepared right, not. It comes in an array of colors and flavors such as blueberry and banana, and contains a scorpion. If you're not feeling that adventurous, how about a tasty snack of worms, such as barbecue, cheddar, and Mexican spice? However, if I had to choose what would be the most delicious insect, I think this is the author speaking, I might vote for the Australian honey ant. It's greatly prized by the Aborigines, who call them by the rather appetizing name Yarumpa. Yarumpa. Yarumpapa, rumpapa, that's how it worms. Don't know where I'm going with that. Anyway, this insect stores so much sugary fluid in its body that its hind end swells up into a ball big enough to eat. People bite the bug's end off to savor the sweet stuff found inside. They say it's just like eating honey, only crunchier. Yeah.
It's so disgusting.
Are you still hungry for lunch, babe?
I want to vomit.
Why Fish Fart, ladies and gentlemen, by Francesca Gould. I'm loving this. I'm loving the factorial information. I would do more this week, but we really have to get more of the show going before we get out of here. We still have our Colorado Limerick of the Dam to do this Saturday on July 20th, 2019, because it's, my gosh, it's 20 minutes to 1 already. I think it's time, because we had the delight of having Cady Huffman in the Daverhood earlier in the show. Go see her. She is going to be at the Green Room 42 this Wednesday night and next Wednesday night. She is now a friend of the Daverhood. She's been on the program, and forever, or until I die, we kind of will keep tabs on her. We'll let you know what she's up to, what new projects, what TV shows she's doing, what cabaret and theater performances that she'll be in. And we try and do this with as many of the hundreds of guests that we've had in the Daverhood as we can. That's why we call them the Friends of the Daverhood. So Friends of the Daverhood, people who've been on the show in the past, we like to let you know what they've been up to. For example, oh gosh, I hate starting like this, but condolences to our friend Michael Colby, whose mother died on Thursday. So our sadness and our best wishes to him. Also, in much happier news, a shout out to our friend, Broadway actress Alice Ripley. She is doing her show, The Ripley Prescription for Love and Recovery. She is at the Green Room 42, and that is tonight. So go see her in Midtown Manhattan, Alice Ripley. Dakin Matthews. Now you can see him on Broadway as the judge in To Kill a Mockingbird, but also tomorrow he is in a reading of a play by J.T. Rogers. It's called One Giant Leap, and you read about this the other day in the New York Times, because the Times put it together. J.T. Rogers wrote a docu-play about the launching of Apollo 11 50 years ago. It's a 45-minute show. It's got a very, very starry cast, including Lauren Ambrose, Jeff Daniels, Christine Nielsen, Samuel L. Jackson, his wife, and also our friend Dakin Matthews. It's happening tomorrow at Town Hall in Midtown. Bartlett Sher is directing. The name of the show is called One Giant Leap. Playing now through tomorrow, it's her last chance to catch a comedy by our critic friend, Peter Felicia. He's writing about musical theater, but he went and he wrote a play of his own, a comedy called God Shows Up. And it literally, God shows up to a Christian televangelist TV show and tries to disabuse all his viewers of what Christianity and religion should really be about. It's called God Shows Up. I saw it. It's kind of cute. And if you want to catch it for yourself, it's playing at the Actors Temple Theater on West 47th Street just today and tomorrow. On Tuesday, our friend Ellie, the King of Broadway, he is going to be at Feinstein's, 54 Below, directed by none other than Faith Prince. Pretty cool. So go see Ellie. That is that is Tuesday, July 23rd. And then, of course, Cady Huffman on Wednesday at the Green Room 42. On Thursday, at the St. George Theater in Staten Island, perfect for this summer weather. Do you want to see Jaws on the silver screen? Well, they're doing it there, and Carl Gottlieb, who wrote the script for Jaws, he will introduce the film, do a Q&A, and sign copies of his book, The Jaws Log, after the showing. So Carl Gottlieb, if you want to hear his interview, he was on the show just a few months ago, the guy who helped Steven Spielberg create Jaws. I mean, after, of course, the Peter Benchley novel. What else? Well, Steve Ross, what a marvelous cabaret performer he is. He and K.T. Sullivan are in a show called Love Noel, about Noel Coward's music and life, that is going to be done at the Irish Repertory Theater on West 22nd Street. It starts on July 26th and runs through almost the end of August. It's called, these are Love Noel. James Morgan of the York Theatre Company is doing the set for that. So we have a 2-for-1. Both Steve Ross and Jim Morgan involved in that show. Thomas G. Waits is directing A White Man's Guide to Rikers Island, happening at the Producers Club now through August 31st. No, it's about this privileged guy who he was in a drunk driving thing and killed somebody. So he's put in Rikers, and then he has to navigate his way through it. And so it's a white man's...
Find the journal.
Yeah, they'll find some white people with swastikas on there and survive. Oh, I don't know. But you can find out by watching A White Man's Guide to Rikers Island at the Producers Club, directed by Thomas G. Waits. That starts, so that's already playing and running through the end of August. Remember that our new friend Melissa Errico is curating a series of French films with scores by Michel Legrand.
Oh, she was a great guest, too.
Yeah, and that is happening at the French Institute on East 60th Street. So look up Melissa Errico to find out more about that, because she also does talkbacks after a couple of the movies. Sip and Act, casual acting lessons and a meetup with script in hand. So this is for newbie actors, for people who are kind of new to the game and just want to take a chance, want to get up there in a cozy, casual atmosphere with wine and take some acting lessons. That is being run by our friend Catherine Russell of the Russell Acting Studio, Thursdays and Saturdays at the Theater Center. Go look that up. It's called Sip and Act, and it's now through the middle of August. Life Sucks. Oh, we have our Austin Pendleton alert. Austin Pendleton alert. Yes, they moved from off-Broadway to an off-Broadway house. This adaptation of an Anton Chekhov play, Life Sucks, featuring Austin Pendleton, is at the Acorn Theater now through September 1st. Now through September 21st, I Spy a Spy at the theater at St. Clement's off-Broadway. That features a set, once again, by our friend James Morgan. And then, as we said, on Broadway, beautiful, the Carole King musical, they have set a closing date. It's closing October 27th. The book is by our friend Douglas McGrath. Andre DeShields is in Hagestown. Irene Sankoff and David Hine, they created Come From Away, a wonderful, very touching musical. On Broadway, Tootsie at the Marquee Theater features a score by our friend David Yazbek and includes in the cast Julie Holston, another two-bagger. Let's see, Hamilton features Daniel Breaker playing Aaron Burr at the Richard Rogers Theater. Monday nights at Birdland, it's Jim Caruso's Cast Party. Evan Seplow is the founder and the editor of StageBuddy.com. So if you want a website about New York nightlife, that is the place to go, StageBuddy.com. Want to let you know that Eva Heinemann hosts High Drama on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, and Charlie Gross and Leslie Hoban Blake, they co-host Two on the Aisle. Both of those are theater review shows. They're really cool, and at least one of them, I know Charlie and Leslie's show, they post those on YouTube as well, if you can't watch them live on mnn.org. Shout out to Bob Cudmore, who does podcasts on upstate New York history at bobcudmore.com. And shout out once again to our friend Mary Shen Barnage. You can read her reviews in both Windy City Times and TotalTheater.com. And those, my friends, are the friends of the Daverhood! Okay, it is. Oh my God, we just have a few minutes left in the show, because I also have to stop the show with 4 hours or we'll lose our Facebook feed. So my gosh, let's get cultural, let's get poetic with our Colorado Limerick of the Damned.
You're the poetry man.
A limerick is a comic verse of 5 lines, in which lines 1, 2, and 5 will end with words that rhyme. And likewise, verses 3 and 4 also end with words that rhyme. So this is a limerick. Rocky Mountain, Colorado, 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 Colorado.
Yes, indeed, our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. Every week we do our dog is trying to get through the thing here. There you go, Lift. We try and do a poem about some town or city or municipality or province in Colorado, where Joyce and I have been living for the past few years, just for fun, just for kicks. Remember that it is a limerick, so they do tend to have a raunchy button on the end of them if they aren't horribly disgusting all the way through. Today's place is... Bob Dylan fans will know this one well, even though his is about Mexico, but it's Durango. Durango. It was an 1880s mining depot named by the governor after the Mexican Durango. It's known for monuments, old villages, and Mesa Verde National Park. It's only 7 square miles, but it's got about 14,000 people in it. The main avenue is its historic district, and people flock to go to the Durango-Silverton Narrow Gauge Railroad, which travels this beautiful path of 45 miles to Silverton, Colorado, and back. Movies that were partially shot in Durango, Colorado include City Slickers, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and Roger Corman's movie, Avalanche. And so here we have an avalanche of culture for you, ladies and gentlemen, as I do this week's Colorado Limerick of the Damned for Durango, Colorado. One evening, while dancing the tango with Dora, a whore from Durango, she shouted and cried and clutched at her side, then squatted and shat out a mango. Yeah, that was worth waiting for, wasn't it? That was our Colorado Limerick of the Damned for this Saturday, July 20th, 2019, right here in the Daverhood. Please send your comments, complaints, and other messages to me at davesgoneby@aol.com. No crickets, no tarantulas, no gerbils. davesgoneby@aol.com, or feel free always to message me here, even during the week when the show isn't going on, at our Facebook page, Dave's Gone By. And please remember, all our archives are at the website, davesgoneby.com. Photos are there too. All the archives are free. You can download them. Cricket recipes are there as well. Remember that we have a new arrangement with Castbox, which is a podcasting place. So if you don't want to listen to this at home, sitting in front of a computer or on a telephone.
Facebook app and listen to it.
But not everybody's on Facebook. So tell folks who don't want to join Facebook or are afraid of privacy things, go to Castbox if you don't want to go to my website, and you can download things as podcasts and MP3s. So, what else do I have to tell? So, all the archives, hundreds of shows and guests. What about next week? Link for
Give them a hint for next week.
I don't know what's on next week yet. We have coming up soon a very cool actress, an actress who was on, it's not 100% yet, but it looks very good, that will have this actress whose mom was one of the most famous actresses in the whole history of television. So you can maybe get, that's another cluey guest sort of thing of an upcoming guest on Dave's Gone By. And another clue, we've had this actress's husband on the program a year or two ago as well, because he's an actor too. Anyway, that's all the hint I'm going to give, because I don't want to give a kanina hurrah in Rabbi Sol Solomon terms. So I think it's time. We're almost 4 hours in. Let's bid farewell to you for this week. I just want to remind you that Rabbi Sol Solomon's website is shalomdammit.com. Shalom, D-A-M-M-I-T, shalomdammit.com. That is a place to watch his wonderful stage show, Shalom Dammit, an Evening with Rabbi Sol Solomon, his TV program, which aired on Long Island cable television about 10 years ago, and hear and read all his rabbinical reflections, his mini sermons. It's all at shalomdammit.com. We thank the rabbi for conducting that interview with Cady Huffman. Oh my gosh, go see her this Wednesday night at the Green Room 42, doing her show about Peggy Lee, CadyHuffman.com, HUFFMAN, CadyHuffman.com. She'll also be doing the show next Wednesday night, July 31st, again at Green Room 42. We thank her so much for being in the Daverhood. I want to remind you that you can go to davelefkowitz.org, or is it David Lefkowitz? Hold on, it's davelefkowitz.org to read a bunch of my writings, my plays, my essays, my comedy bits. It's all there, and we're putting more and more there all the time. davelefkowitz.org for more me, to read the stuff that isn't off the cuff, just shooting wholesale out of my brain. This is more the retail stuff, that stuff I had to work on and slave over. davelefkowitz.org. Well, we're 3 minutes to the end. I want to thank my darling and lovely and adorable sweet wife for being with us in the Daverhood and having fun with us and playing along in the quiz and doing all the wonderful things she does with me and for me all week long. Love you, sweetie.
Keep it under 4 so you don't get shut down, Bubba.
Giving a shout out to my parents as well, and to my in-laws as well, and to all you folks keeping it cool here in the hottest part of the summer so far, hopefully of all. Let's come out in the Daverhood on this Saturday, July 20th, 2019, with one more reminder of the delightful Cady Huffman and that show that she was in back in 2000 and 2001. Hold on, gonna get started. We'll just say we'll see you next Saturday, 9 a.m.-ish to noon-ish, right here on this Facebook page, Dave's Gone By. I'm talked out. Are you listened out? I do this show. What do I do the show for? I don't do it for money. I do it for
utter redemption of your soul.
Yeah, which is why I'm a prisoner of love and gone by. And I do love doing this program, and I do hope you guys all love it too. Thanks for tuning in. Please tell your friends about the show. We're really trying to build a bigger audience, both for what I do on here and also trying to come back off Broadway and do a show there. So the more folks I can reach here, the better. Tell them to like us. Tell them to follow us on Facebook. Tell them to write in and give us thumbs up and all that sort of thing. Really appreciate that. What else can I want to tell us, very importantly, to see us first, so that if they happen to be online on Facebook at 8:59, 9:01 on a Saturday morning, and they need a reminder, they will see it. It will pop up, and they will know, ooh, Dave is on live, and I can watch the show. So I hope you'll all be watching and listening to this show next Saturday for a brand new 706th episode of Dave's Gone By and Gone By.